Happy Sunday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League here at Week 5, day number 3. I'm J-Mac. Got Inbound joining me on the desk for our first set of the day to kick things off. We got the Gladiators going up against the Ravens to start things out. It's going to be a fantastic Sunday here in week number 5 of the SPL. We can take a look at the schedule to show you guys everything that you've missed so far this weekend and what you can expect for the remainder of today. A 3-0 at the top of the week for the Kings over the Gladiators, and the Ferrymen a 3-1 over the Hounds. We kicked off Sunday with the Dragons and the Kings. It was a 3-1 for the Jade Dragons. And then yesterday, our match of the week, Oni Warriors and Styx Ferrymen, goes the full distance to 5, but it's the Styx Ferrymen who come out on top with the 3-2. And now that leads us to our Sunday. Highland Ravens, Gilded Gladiators to start things out, and the Atlantis Leviathans and Eldritch Hounds to round out the day and our weekend for week number 5. A look at the standings gives you an idea of what you can kind of start looking forward to for the remainder of our weeks coming through. Styx Ferrymen on top of the standings for the Order Division at 7-1. Opposite side, it's the Oni Warriors at 5-2, with the Camelot Kings hot on their heels at 4-4. And if you can see a win from the Highland Ravens today, could tie them up with the Camelot Kings, or could maybe see the Gilded Gladiators try and fight themselves out of that unwinning season so far. Other side, you do see the Atlantis Leviathans right behind the Ferrymen, and now the Jade Dragons with their recent win starting to close up that gap just a little bit more between 3rd and 2nd place. So still a lot of standings implications inbound. Still have a couple more weeks to play after this one. So I believe for most of the teams, 2 to 3 more sets to play to still affect some of these standings.
Yeah, and we're going to need the Gladiators start getting some momentum back. Still looking for that first win. But all it takes is one. Once you get that first win, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, easier to come by. And then the Ravens side of things, they need this win to tie up their standings. And then that puts them only 1 win behind the Oni Warriors for first place. So big set for this first one today. It's going to be an exciting one too.
Yeah, I think this one might be a bit more exciting than would lead to believe earlier on in the phase. You know, the Gilded Gladiators have really been kind of stepping up as of recent. The addition with Jangaru over in the mid lane, moving Snoopy over to ADC has really kind of helped the momentum of this team. They've been able to not necessarily find big wins, but find big improvements. And I think specifically in our previous set just earlier this weekend, I think the one player I was looking for a lot more step up one was Cxnnahh over in the Soul lane. He looked really strong up in that Camelot King set.
And Cxnnah's been an inconsistent player so far, and that's what happens with rookies. He's had some really high highs, some lower lows. If he could start ramping up to that more consistency toward the top end, he could be one of the better solos in the entire league. But we do need to start seeing some consistency from him. Last week was a good start, and now if he can carry it over for the set against the Highland Ravens against Haddix, that's going to be a very, very good start.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this set can break out. But one thing I didn't mention, because it's a nice little surprise, we actually have Jangaru here in the studio now, and he's actually standing by for our pregame interview.
That's right, we do have Jangaru here in the studio for the first time playing with the Gladiators. And that's the first question. How does it feel to be here in the studio on the ground in Georgia, playing with the guys for the first time in the booths? Does it feel like there's a little bit more energy going into this set?
I definitely think it is more energy, just seeing all my guys. Personally, I had a pretty tiring drive this morning, so seeing them kind of ramp me back up into wanting to play, wanting to win, so I'm feeling good about it.
So you drove this morning to...
This morning.
Oh, man. So you're feeling ready for this set. No, I wanted to ask you about, stepping back into mid. I think you've played jungle and mid a little bit throughout your career, jungle even earlier this season in the SEC. So how does it feel to transition back into that role and now be playing mid up in the SPL?
Definitely feels good. I've always enjoyed mid more than I've enjoyed jungle. Always been something I've been trying to get back into. With me being a rookie and role swapping back, it is something that I'm definitely getting more comfortable with. But the more I play with the guilds, I feel like I'm just getting better and better with them.
No doubt. I mean, you guys, especially since the pickup, have looked a lot more confident. I feel like almost just like willing to step up a little bit more, taking some games off some big teams in some of these matchups. Do you feel like you bring a little bit more of that energy, maybe some shot calling presence to the field?
I feel like with me being a jungler, I try as much as I can to shot call more with helping Kyrmi out, helping everybody out with shot calling. So yeah, I definitely think with me being here, we definitely talk and communicate way more.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys look more confident. Good luck in the set today for sure. That'll do it for the interview. We'll throw it back to the desk.
I think it's an important point to pull from there is, coming from a jungler perspective, typically they're seen as one of the shot callers alongside players like supports and whatnot. So even coming out of that initial role, still kind of holding on to that same mentality. And I think just from listening into some of the recent Glad's comms, it does sound like we're finally getting a little bit more of that discussion and a bit more of those clear communications and fights.
And I think even without hearing the comms, you can tell the team is more on the same page with their calls. They can be more committed to stuff. You can kind of tell when they're, not doing true 5v5s, those 2v2s, 2 diving, 3 playing back. They just seem more smooth. And it's obvious, at least from my perspective, that Jangaru's got a little bit to do with it. His comms to be able to tell the team kind of what he's doing or what he wants to do are always going to help. And especially that's what you want as a jungler. When you have a jungler calming, you want that jungler to tell you what he wants to do. So you can assume that Jangaru's going to be doing the same. And now, getting into the other side of things, the Ravens. This is a team now that is still getting used to that Zapman pickup. They traded out him for Bera a couple weeks ago. Still trying to smooth that all over. They've looked good, but their last set, a tough one against the Oni Warriors. They looked strong, but they definitely did lose 3-1, so they didn't look strong enough to win.
Yeah, against the Oni Warriors, I mean, even when we saw another top team with the 6 Ferrymen, that's a very difficult task to be able to take down a top team. So now going against the team inside of their own division, one that's a bit of a lower seed, this should be an important matchup for both these ones. For the Highland Ravens, it's one that they kind of need to win to be able to try and jump up into that 2nd, potentially 3rd seed, depending on how the rest of their weekend goes. And for the Gladiators, it's that momentum shift. Being able to find that first win of the phase is always so important. While it doesn't necessarily, this far in, it's only going to net them maybe potentially 1 to 2 more after that, kind of depending on how some of their matchups go. So it's not necessarily for the Gladiators going to change them going out of that 4th seed. But more than anything, it's that mental shift that the guys really need, especially as we start moving towards playoffs and for the teams that don't make it to that playoffs, moving all the way towards that last chance world qualifier. So I think it's important for the Gladiators to keep their head on straight in this game to try and find the win. And opposite here, as you mentioned, for the Highland Ravens, to be able to try and find some more success. It's been a bit inconsistent so far with this team. We've seen some really high highs of the team. We've seen some pretty low lows with this squad. But I think the important thing that separates teams that have those inconsistencies is where that middle ground stands. And right now, I think for the Highland Ravens, it's been a bit better on that middle compared to some of the other teams kind of at this same position that we've seen this phase.
And with this being the first game the Ravens have this week, and their only game this week, they haven't played since last week, this is going to be kind of like the one that we need to see that consistency from. They have to be able to put up a good performance every week, and this is their only opportunity this week. If they come in a little slow, I would not be surprised if the Gladiators come out really hot and are ready to play. So the Ravens need to be ready to match that. And I assume it starts with Venenu. I think this is the player that a lot of that inconsistency does come from. Even though he's a veteran in the game, he is a fantastic mid laner a lot of the times, but he does have a lot of games or a few games where he does misplay and make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, Venenu's one that a lot of players have been keeping their eyes on over the mid lane. The good news is we had a chance to sit down with him earlier this week and talk to him, so we'll go ahead and roll that interview with Venenu.
Our team played pretty well this weekend, I think. We went into the King set really, really confident. We knew exactly what we wanted to play, and we kind of did just blow them out completely. That is a really good set for us. I think for the Warriors, you do have to play a different style of game. I don't think we adjusted properly to what they were doing, so it kind of just let them get away with everything. But going forward into the other teams, I think we are very, very confident into them. Watching the Glads, they have a few issues here and there. I mean, they are a very strong team. They've shown that. They took games versus Ferrymen, and they looked decent against Ferrymen, especially with just a fresh roster swap. We just have to watch back their VODs and look how they play the map and stuff. They have a unique playstyle, so we just have to make sure that it doesn't catch us off guard. I think the Glads have definitely struggled for sure. I think Snoopy swapping to ADC is definitely going to be his stronger role in general. I think with the pickup of Jangaru, I think Jangaru performed really well this week versus Ferryman, I believe they played. So they're definitely looking better and stronger. I wouldn't be surprised if they start raising the ranks. And yeah, we just have to treat them like any other team and perform very well versus them.
I think kind of pulling a little bit of something from what Venenu was saying, about the Gladiators in this case was they've had some very tough matchups for their first couple ones with their new squad. As mentioned, 6 Ferrymen as a first team that you have to play against with the new roster. Not an easy task to go up against. Then you've had to play against other teams like Camelot Kings as well. It's been a rough round for them. But now for the Highland Ravens, with kind of a look at the remainder of their schedule, it's Gilded Gladiators today. Next week, they got to play against the Eldritch Hounds, another team that's kind of on the lower end of the seating. And then they got to play the Atlantis Leviathan, I believe, for their final matchups here. So still have a couple of tough opponents to go through, but you've still got to get through these earlier matchups. You got to get through this matchup today, specifically a very important one for their bracket.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to be looking ahead to those difficult matchups. It starts here. This is the game that you have to start with, and it's just one game at a time. This is not, Worlds officially, but you need to start ramping up. This is the time when you need to start improving. We've talked about the inconsistencies of both of these teams, and that's kind of the big difference when you look at the teams like the Ferrymen, the Levi's, the Oni Warriors. There's a lot more consistency, and so we need to see these middle of the pack or lower end teams start to get a little bit more consistency down. I think that's really all it comes down to, is just the ability to play towards the top of your play capability more often.
Yeah, playing up to the competition is always great. We see that a lot from some of the lower seeded teams as well. When they've got nothing to lose, they try some wild stuff and see if it works out. We'll see if it does here for the Gilded Gladiators against the Ravens. Game number 1, picks and bans immediately. We do see that Raijin banned away by the Gladiators. Opposite side, the Athena ban. Very warranted. Even in the games that the Gladiators have been struggling, when Jake is able to get that Athena pick, it really does make it seem like a whole different team. And I think described the best by you. It's a god that simplifies the executions of the game more than anything. Walk up, dash taunt, that's your easy to go initiation. Maybe no surprise that we're starting to see so much heavy priority on picking and banning this god.
Yeah, the Athena makes a lot of sense, and the Raijin makes a lot of sense too. We've seen heavily prioritization towards this Raijin if it does not get top 3 banned. We saw it even last game of yesterday's set, picked over Baba, picked over Yemoja. So this god is heavily prioritized now, along with that Hades, which has a very, strong laning phase over in solo. And Erlang kind of coming back a little bit. We saw this huge assassin meta at the start of this phase. The assassins are still strong, but not as strong as Erlang. Erlang's kind of taken over that number 1 jungle spot. And then you have gods like Rat kind of falling behind, Lance if you're Twig. But Lancelot has shown a lot of strength. That's just like kind of the character sometimes, where he might go 0-4 in one game, but then the next game he's going 6-0 and you can't kill him and he kills everyone. So that's just kind of the Lancelot or the Erlang problem. And the Gilded Gladiators with the Amma last ban. With the Chernobog still available, we saw actually a little bit less prio towards this Chernobog yesterday in both sets. He actually made it through in one of the sets one of the games of the Kings versus Dragons, and it was lower picked in the Ferryman Warrior set a couple times, and it makes it through here with Rat being the final ban.
So Athena, Erlang, and Rat for the Ravens. Raijin, Hades, Amaterasu for the Gladiators. Leaves open a first pick Yemoja, which still, to this day, I mean, ever since the introduction of this god to the SPL, there have been some metas where she's not been necessarily, top pick, top ban every single time. You'd still kind of see a shy ban thrown that way, but as of the last few weeks of play and as of really this phase, this god has kind of risen back to the top of the rankings for the support role. And it's answered back immediately by 2 more top picks in their roles, Chernobog and Baba Yaga now for the Highland Ravens, Bobby.
And a really 2 very strong backliners by the Ravens, both very safe. Both have a little bit chase down potential in the ultimates. But I think the highlight of this Ravens top 2 so far is just how hard to deal with these 2 gods are when they get ahead. Baba, very hard to kill, does a lot of damage. Chernobog has that global capabilities, so if he does get ahead, he can actually rotate very easily. Going over to the Glads now. Morrigan Le Fay being hovered. She's kind of came back up a little bit too. She's one of those next tier of mages right after that Baba Yaga. And it makes sense. She is a safe mage. She's self-sufficient for the most part, and she has a little bit of follow-up on dives with her ultimate ability with how long range that is. So I like it in games like this, especially when you have Yemoja just provides extra safety on top of it, makes it even harder to deal with. But no Morrigan Le Fay, Sun Wukong in solo for the Glads, and Agni getting hovered, Agni locked in.
And Agni's been one of those mages, we haven't seen him a whole lot so far. 8 games that he's been played, has won out a little over half of those ones so far. Typically, we see more players like Benny Q kind of going towards this pick whenever some of his top mages are either taken away or just whenever he feels like he needs something maybe a little bit safer, something with a bit more range. to see some of that success. Some of these also kind of follow up and give you that second form of initiation. It's easy to start a team fight out when you drop a bomb and then stun 2 or 3 people alongside there. So like the option for Jangaru there in the mid lane along with the Wukong. Opposite end, we do see Scream go back to the Neja. Has the Baba Yaga for a little bit of follow-up, but just gives you that ability to take somebody out of a team fight. You know, you don't want to deal with the tank, pull them up into the sky. Most often your supports and sometimes your solo is not going to have a way to get out of that windfire wheel. So interested to see how Scream pilots this pick against the Gladiators.
And with the current Neja build, with more hybrid capabilities, not really a one-shot assassin. He's really never been a one-shot assassin, but it's more of that hybrid breastplate we've seen a lot of, Runeforged. This is a very hard to deal with Ravens comp. It's very hard to lock down most of them, very hard to kill most of them. Curious to see if the Gladiators opt to play a more defensive style and play to just kind of outlast them, or if they're going to try to fight into it. And going down to the bans, we have Serket, Camazotz by the Ravens, taking a shot at Kyrmi in the jungle, and the Gladiators. A little bit of a respect to Hurry with that Ymir ban. Really the only one that's played it. He had one game where he looked fantastic on it, and then the opposite side of things where he went 0-7 on Ymir, which just kind of happens every once in a while when you're playing a god like Ymir.
And now, Ymir Horus, as mentioned by banned by the Gladiators. Opposite side, a couple of junglers taken away from Kyrmi, the Camazotz and the Serket, both picks that he has comfortably gone to over the course of this phase. Now already have also lost the Ratatoskr, the Erlong Shen, and the Naja. 5 gods essentially targeted away from Kyrmi. And then a Sobek pick for the Highland Ravens. Not too many teams have been playing the Croc before Aurora brought it back onto the scene, but it seems like now that Aurora has shown the capabilities of this god, almost everybody's jumping back to him.
And just like that, you see Aurora played a couple times and it looks good, and it just skyrockets up as like that next available support. I mean, you compare the capabilities of a Yemoja versus a Sobek, and it is Yemoja can engage, peel, you know, kite out, run away from fights. Sobek's just going to kind of pluck you, and that's what his job is. He wants to kill whoever is plucked. The Gladiators opt for the team fight oriented Hun bots. A lot of big team fight potential on this Glad side of things. Yemoja, Wukong, Agni, Hun bots, Ishtar. A lot of big CC ultimates also. If you get your beats forced, there's a very high chance that you could die right after.
And then Op Wash for the Highland Ravens. Now, we've seen in the previous sets some flexibility on the god between mid and that solo lane, considering Baba Yaga's already locked in. Will be an off-wash solo for Haddix. I'll be honest, I can't even think of a time where I've seen Haddix play off-wash. I think this might actually be his very first game competitively on this god, so interesting to see how he'll go about piloting this one, because we've seen a couple of different build paths and kind of mentalities for the off-wash. When you're playing a mid, you build him full damage, maybe throw a breastplate in there. For solo, we've seen a little bit of flexibility in the build. So we've seen kind of this emergence of this new made solo build where you go, I think it's Vampiric Shroud into Pythax piece. You get a double defense, 1 physical and magical. And then the flexibility is kind of there at the tail end of the build. Is that kind of maybe the expectation you'd see from this Opwash in that solo lane set, or do you think there's maybe a different kind of build path you'd go?
I expect him to run that exact build that you're just stating, and he's going to round it out with something like the Typhons to amplify that healing that you're actually getting from that Bloodsoaked Shroud, that Pythags. It gives you a ton of power in just 3 items, and then you have so much survivability from the cooldown from usually, I won't say he's going to do it, but usually the Breastplate Genjis. And then that 6th slot is usually the open slot where you can go a Mantle if you want a little bit more survivability, if you want a little bit more damage, maybe anti-heal, a Divine. But this is still an Opwash that builds a lot of damage and not a lot of safety early. It's usually that Pythags rushed, as you said. There is kill potential over here. Wukong, we've seen Wukongs dive that tower before because of just the ability to banish yourself and still have your clone tank. So I would not be too surprised, especially with this Hun Batz in the jungle, if the Glads try to play towards that solo lane and maybe punish out, invade blues, and try to really put behind Haddix.
Now, for the Gladiators, their strategy, at least in their previous match against the Kings, was shut down the solo lane. Typically, Variety was also going towards the mages, so could be an idea that we see embodied by Kyrmi once again up against an Opwash over in that lane. Could be a lane to gank, but I think now the follow-up question is, do you have pressure elsewhere on the map to allow Kyrmi to be able to make those kind of plays? Does this dual lane and mid combo of the Gilded Gladiators have enough to be able to hold down the fort if Kyrmi is putting his full focus over in that solo lane?
Yeah, they should win actually both of those lanes. Yemoja, insane in the laning phase. Ishtar really helps that out. So there's safety along with really strong laning phase. And then you look at the opposite side. Sobek's not going to be very impactful in the laning phase. Yes, he sets up ganks, but he's not clearing waves or anything like that. And Chernobog doesn't want to fight in duo a lot of the times. He wants to be able to ult over. So maybe that's a little bit of the worry. If you play towards that soul lane, that Chernobog rotation is scary. And Baba's just farming. That's what that character does. That's what she wants to do. She wants 6 items before she's really looking to fight. She can fight beforehand, but she really does want those 6 items before she actually looks to fight.
A big set for both of these two teams. Can the Gilded Gladiators find some success for themselves, or are the Highland Ravens going to run away with game number 1? We'll find out by jumping in with our casters, Frog and Trelly.
Highland Ravens looking to take a tied set with the Camelot Kings. The Gilded Gladiators, they're looking to find their first win. And this is the portion, Trelly, where we're starting to get towards the later half of Phase 2. These standings come into play. The Road to Worlds, I mean, we're getting there later in the season. This match definitely has a lot riding on it for the future implications of both of these teams. And you see where the Twitch poll lies, 71-29 in favor of the Highland Ravens. Certainly sporting a better record, but with Jangaru here in studio, I mean, think about it. He can reach over and touch Kyrmi. He's right there. They're next to each other physically. That's got to be a buff.
Do you think that's a buff? Just
Yeah,
like
he
in
can
your own
touch.
life?
Yeah, he can reach over and like fist bump
No,
Kyrmi
that's
and
good
Jake.
vibes.
Yeah.
That's good vibes, 100%.
Good
I'm not gonna doubt that. I just don't know how much that improves, the overall gameplay, the overall synergy of your team. But you're right. The fist bump buff, we'll call it, is certainly not nothing. So I can see the Gilded Gladiators feeling just a little bit more impactful in that regard. I was mentioning this yesterday. If you fear your buff is going to be invaded, look what the Ravens are doing. They're not pulling it in the typical spot. They're pulling it farther away. They don't want that chance of losing their buff. It's going to ruin your early game. So I love that call. They recognize immediately, hey, we're up against the Yemoja. She's going to throw like 12,000 bouncing bubbles onto the wave and onto the buffs and clear way before us, along with the Ishtar. So let's just make sure that does not happen. Hitting level 2 first is a big deal for the Gladiators. They get pressure in lane, but losing that purple buff could be just lane over for the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, and this feels like a lot of pressure pretty much everywhere for the Gilded Gladiators. He's heard Inbound talking about it on the desk. Ishtar and Yemoja likely to bring a lot of fight potential here on the left side. The Upwash just going to constantly throw out some poke, and the Wukong kind of doesn't really care about that. He just wants to poke you, can do it and clear the wave at the same time. And the Gladiators, I think this early game is going to have a lot of importance to them in terms of where they want to get things started. And my eyes immediately go to Kyrmi and when he's going to get that level 5 spike, where he's going to choose to focus.
I think Kyrmi is a little wild for this Blink pickup. Now, I know it's one of the best options for Hunbatz. If you want to get aggressive early, you go Blink, but that just means that Scream has such an easy target with that Windfire Wheels. And you could say the opposite is true. Scream didn't go for beads. He didn't go for Blink either. Actually goes for the Aegis, fearing when he comes down from that Windfire Wheels that he's going to be landing into a lot of burst damage. Good to immune some of that damage, but still, the CC will be there. If I'm Scream, there's just a big target on Kyrmi's head now. I am looking towards this Hunbatz pretty much immediately. I'm amazed there's even an attempt on Haddix's life here. There's no way they're ever going to kill him. Haddix gives him a little laugh. I would have too. That was never going to work.
Yeah, it's a blink in early. Hopefully that'll be back up by the time Kyrmi has that ultimate available, because you gotta imagine that mage over in the soul lane likely to be a big focus. That's one that we've seen the Gladiators perform before, where they, that's the one they look to focus out, and then they ultimately, weren't able to coordinate that, push it into any sort of lead in the middle game. But this early game, a little bit more important this time around, just because of maybe how well this Ravens composition scales, it feels like to me. Baba Yaga and Zapman being able to have that mitigation when he lands, it just feels like there's so much potential for these good late game fights with the Ravens composition.
Maybe a little bit of damage here if Jangaru still has the stun. Looks like the dash in will pull the beads. He should be falling down here. Ven already dashed.
Oh my goodness, the damage. He's pretty much
Please?
sealed his
man.
life there. They needed one more auto to find it, and the Gladiators on the board first.
Yeah, going for the solo green buff invade, a little bit questionable there. Ven doesn't have the damage to try and blow through that buff quickly, and with Kyrmi on the rotation, maybe expected him to be over near his speed buff, something like that. But no, Kyrmi was in earshot, knew exactly what was going on, and immediately found that first blood along with the beads burn. That's going to be big. I think that was the idea for the solo lane gank. Hey, we're not going to kill Haddix, but maybe we pull beads so I can gank him at level 5. Doesn't happen, but now you have a better target, right? Ven losing that bead. Still has the ultimate for CC immunity, but if Jangaru stuns first, you can chain that CC together and not even have to worry about that ultimate. Could be a decent target before the prophetic cloak gets online as well. Great start for the Glads.
Great start for the Glads. I mean, I think they want to focus down one of these mages, and as soon as they can start chaining a couple of these kills together, that's where they're going to be building their lead. You can see, obviously, that first blood, only maybe a 100, maybe less than that or so in the gold lead, and considering how much gold that first blood gives you just period in and of itself, Highland Ravens were farming a little bit more efficiently before that first blood came through, and they're going to look to continue to do that. These neutral invades, the shield buff, the cooldown buff on the right-hand side, something that, you know, I expect the Ravens to have their eyes on, maybe even over looking for picks, looking for these skirmishes. They want to make sure they keep up in the farm game and can get to that mid-game point where their fights are going to be a little bit stronger.
Wouldn't be surprised if Scream looks for Kyrmi here. Looks like Kyrmi's staying out of range for a reason. Doesn't want to get sashed, doesn't want to get taken up to the sky. Remember, there still is no beads available. With just Jangaru here and Hurriwind not far behind, I expected the Highland Ravens to want to get aggressive. I guess they don't quite have vision on where Awesome Jake was. If you don't know where that Yemoja is, you don't know where the River's Rebuke could be, and you don't want to put yourself out of position. But now, Awesome Jake's been spotted out, so Scream doesn't really have to worry about that one.
Wow. That's a question mark for me. Snoopy.
I mean, you think there's no beads for Snoopy, right? So there's no way Scream was going to sash there. I guess Snoopy wanted kill potential. That I understand the mindset, like, hey man, I really don't want to be taken up into the air, but you can just like reaction beads it. I
think he wanted to make sure that Scream knew he had his 4-key bound, and sure enough, Scream well aware of that, and he knows that Kyrmi has that 4-key bound as well. The Fear No Evil seals his fate near the mid lane right there, and they're actually still on the aggression here. River's Rebuke traps into Hurriwind, forced into the waters, and will be able to get on out of there, but a second kill for the Glads.
And see, that's my question, right? When you look at the relic choice, Scream, you have to pre-Aegis that ultimate if you're in danger. I guess Scream probably thought, hey, every time the Fear No Evil comes through, I can just ult out. You know, that's going to be the call. But if you get caught around a corner, you're not ready for it, you get CC chain and the rest of the team is there. They're going to be able to collapse and get that kill. So, no use in having Aegis in that situation. Kyrmi makes a great play, sits around and waits for it. Now, both Kyrmi and Jangaru have a kill under their belt. And you know those knuckle touches are flying.
Oh yeah, no, that's the buff really coming through of being here in person. You gotta imagine they're feeling pretty good after getting off to this 2-0 start, but despite that, it's gonna be more important around these neutral objectives. You can see the pings coming through around this Gold Fury, and a big focus is going to be towards this ward coverage as well. Who's going to be trying to take this objective first, and really who has shred potential? Because I'm looking at either side. There's some secure on both sides. There's some shred as well, but I mean, neither team really finds their strengths around these objectives.
Yeah, that's true. I think that Snoopy, those shotgun auto attacks really do burn through a Gold Fury very quickly, especially if we get some more itemization online. But you're right to highlight that there's not too much confirmation as far as you can get the Agni bomb, but a blanket from Kyrmi, they're trying to get aggressive.
Damage onto Zapman, finds the dash away, but won't make it up into the sky, and Snoopy grabs his first of the game. 3 kills split across 3 members on the Glads, and they'll get the shield buff to boot.
They certainly will. That's a beautiful ultimate. Kyrmi making use of that blink for a reason. Even if Scream takes him to the sky here, where's the follow-up? Can anyone get in range? Doesn't seem like it. If anything, Scream just gets turned on here.
Kyrmi's pretty low, has to jump away from the wall, but the ultimate back in from Zapman gets them the damage they need, and Kyrmi will be sent to the gray screen. A good set of waves, though. Makes some tower shots, target onto Venenu. And Awesome Jake, he'll get out of there after preventing the chase down. Have to imagine those waves prevent him from dying there, and maybe Snoopy as well, as they were looking to dive the tier 1 tower. But the Ravens, they find an answer back.
Yep, and that's the strength of this Chernobog. Even I forgot that Zap, once he respawned, would instantly be able to join that fight and fly back in. Didn't seem like there was going to be enough chase down potential. I thought Screammmmm gets turned on, but with the rotation in from Ven, with the ultimate in from Zapman, easy confirmation there. Despite the fact that Ven shows up to that fight, he was 2 levels down for a second there. Jangaru farming the map about as good as you can at 8 minutes into the game. Being level 11, pretty close to level 12, I would imagine, just by nature of how much farm he's had. Yeah, if you make those rotations, you're going to lose a little bit of farm. Speaking of farm, Zapman not going to be able to save his purple buff unless Hurriwind comes over to help. Kyrmi!
Oh no, he misses the Fear No Evil, tries to time it with the dash, and is a little bit off the mark, maybe even having the follow-up here. Beads known for Zapman, so they have to look for the chase if they want to find more damage. Ravens, they've got Screammmmm over here now, thinking if they could have caught somebody, maybe taken him up into the air, he could have seen the re-engage, but I mean, that's gotta feel bad. A dropped kill there from Kyrmi.
Yeah, Zapman didn't even have the beads, didn't have ultimate. There was nothing to immune that Fear No Evil if it connected. I understand the play. You want to try and catch it mid-dash, because if you put it there before, he's just going to hide in the wall, but doesn't end up working out. The timing was not there. I think just lucky that Screammmmm wasn't in rotation range in time, right? If he shows up after that missed ultimate, maybe looks for an ultimate onto Kyrmi, and that could have been bad. Hurriwind gets rip-tided back. Doesn't seem like Snoopy has enough damage to try and find a kill. But Screammm's still on the way. There's a Naja in the jungle. Looks like decided against it. Not too much kill potential over in duo. Sparks have been flying though, Frog. Already 10 minutes in, 4 kills have been had. You talked about Gold Fury pressure. I'm thinking Beacon and Gold Fury. Certainly on the mind of both of these teams. Just one lost fight, one overextension, one wasted ultimate. And we could see a pull anytime now.
Yeah, and the XP lead, I think something I'm focused on. You mentioned it already, 2 levels for Jangaru, as he has not had to rotate to any of these fights, just quietly farming up there in the mid lane. Despite that, though, not too big of a gold lead anywhere, and that shows up in the items. Still just 2 full items for both of these mid laners, and I'm looking at the second item between these junglers. Something that we've seen Screammmmm go back to in the past, grabbing what looks to be a breastplate, so maybe looking to be a little bit more of a facilitator on the other side. Kyrmi, he's been the one engaging, but just focusing a little bit more damage heavy.
Yeah, I don't think you can reliably build breastplate on Hunbats and still get that damage off. You can just be a CC bot, but it feels a lot better if you're able to confirm those kills for yourself as opposed to just relying on your team. With that said, though, I do want to see Kyrmi go for a couple more ults before Screammmmm gets access to beats, assumingly that he picks it up in the second slot. I guess he could go blink Aegis, but at this point, you have time, right? You've got the lead, you've got the advantage, and that's exactly what the Gladiators will do. Not go for an ultimate, go for a pull. Hurriwind saw this, and I'm pretty sure he just left. Or did he not see it? He was so close.
I don't know. Either way, I mean, the Highland Ravens, they either get caught sleeping or they don't feel comfortable stepping up, and have to imagine, regardless of the reason, the gold lead's still going to feel impactful for the Gilded Gladiators, because that's the first time they've been able to pull ahead 1,500 or so. And that spike, I think, is significant in the sense that that's the first, like, throughout all these picks, all the farm steals, all the neutral camp that we've seen go either way, it's really that first neutral objective that has the largest impact there, and will be felt by the Gilded Gladiators, you have to imagine. But hold that thought, might be a trap here, and Screammmmm is caught inside the wave. Snoopy doing a little bit of damage, and Kyrmi on the rotation over. Great blink and trap Screammmmm against the wall. Hurriwind now the focus, and a great teleport from Kyrmi. They might try to dive the tower, but it's not going to be enough. Jake not there to tank. And on the other side, Jangaru, he's been left alone under the mid lane. The Aegis is beautiful, but he has to be perfect on the Zapman, and he's not. Zapman will trade it back 1-for-1 across the map.
Yep, Zap uses that ult and the beat just to make sure Jangaru can't trade there. I was going to say, this solo lane rotation in could be a big deal. Cxnnahh has teleport and still gets out-rotated by Haddix. That's a big deal. You lose Beacon, you lose your mid laner. And the Highland Ravens still answering back despite being down a fair bit across the map. The duo lane was looking a bit dire. I mean, Snoopy just throwing out ults, trying to confirm his purple buff. Wasn't able to find it. Luckily, awesome Jake was able to connect with Screammmmm with that ultimate. Didn't even seem like there was much kill potential, right? Until Kyrmi shows up. Once you see that blink ultimate, that's exactly what I wanted from Kyrmi. At least one more kill onto Screammmmm before level 12. Punish him for not getting beads. Haven't seen that Aegis even used right. It's just not been getting the value that Scream wanted. 0-2. Should be able to go back to base and pick up the beats any second now. I'll be baffled if he gets anything else.
I don't think we've seen the Carapace shard used either. He just hasn't really been able to find the aggression quite yet onto the Najah. Picked up that kill onto Kyrmi on the left-hand side, but other than that, I think pretty much holding until he can get 3 items, get 4 items into that build, and we're looking for how the team fight comes together on the side of the Ravens. And for me, it's a lot. I mean, there's some AoE damage, especially it's hard to not say that when there's an Apwash and an Ababa on the other side, but it's very pick-centric in terms of where the CC comes from. Single target from Sobek Pluck, single target from Windfire Wheels. I have to imagine that might affect how they look for the picks here. The
ring toss!
The ring toss steals away the Pyromancer's Scream. He does not have that second relic yet.
Kyrmi.
And off the mark again from Kyrmi. Everything goes wrong for the Gladiators, and they have to get out of dodge. They cannot stick around, but Jangaru, no relic available, and the punish seems to be coming through. He'll be staying alive thanks to the healing from Awesome Jake, but the Ravens, they steal away the objective.
Wow, Scream walks up, ring tosses. Looks like he's out of position, right? The Riptide comes through. Aegis finally used, but unfortunately Kyrmi didn't get the Sacred Monkey toss the way he thought he did. Placed the ultimate right at his feet off the TP, and Scream was able to get out of dodge there, get the steal, and get out for free. There is an ultimate though. Zapman wants the 1v1 over on left. Does he have the damage to find it? It looks like he might, but there's minions blocking him.
2 levels ahead, and it is felt with the damage. A killing spree for the Chernobog. Zapman finds the solo kill onto Snoopy in the left lane.
Yeah, you can't be split pushing when Chernobog's around, especially when you're that far behind. 2 level deficit. Didn't quite have the damage. I mean, look at the build difference. Ishtar doesn't win that in a movie. A full fail not for Zapman, he's going to win that trade every single time. Snoopy just caught lacking, and unfortunately there was no tower to hide behind, right? He just can't push up that far. Not when Zapman has ultimate. Learned his lesson the hard way. Snoopy very far behind, just in the realm of ADCs. And now, because of that extra ADC damage, the Highland Ravens go for a pull.
Bold indeed. Hurriwind still sticking on it, but Gilded Gladiators, they're aware of the objective pressure and are in the area to try to contest. Kyrmi and Awesome Jake, enough for the Ravens to step off. Have to imagine, though, Scream, he's going to be looking for a pick here, right? I mean, beads on the members of the Gladiators, most of them outside of the tanks, have those available. But, I mean, punishment on the Najah, if you can catch somebody around the corner, surprise, they don't even get a chance to beads. That might be what they're looking for. 5 members here, and the Oni Fury might be committed to down low, and the Gladiators take it away. Scream under pressure and looking to be taken down, finds the ultimate to escape, and Kana doesn't have the chase down as they pull back Haddix, but I mean, I don't know that there's enough damage to go back in. In fact, the Ravens, they're the ones turning things around. Zapman on the chase. He's way ahead of the rest of his team. Venenu grabs Snoopy, and Zap grabs another. A huge fight back for the Ravens. They're still chasing.
Yeah, you can see Awesome Jake underneath the tower, but guess what? Zapman and Scream are here. Goodbye. Awesome Jake Hurriwind picks that one up while Kana has to bird form away to get as far away from the Ravens as possible. There's no Pyromancer here, Frog. It looks like Fire Giant's on their minds. Kana hiding in the jungle. This could be a big play if he sticks around. Doesn't have the Somersault Cloud, but the Ravens are going for fire.
I don't know. He's got to know at this point. Fire Giant picked up, and he's got his own ward there, but the Ravens, they're aware that he's here. And Kyrmi, he's just
nearby.
On the other side of the wall as well. The ultimate is not available, though. Fear No Evil would be huge here, and it's on the backside. They take down Zapman, but the Ravens secure the objective. Can Kyrmi find anything else? It's him versus the world, and I think the world might take it away as Kyrmi gets put into the gray screen as well. They take down the ADC, but a trade for 2 and the Fire Giant there, and the Ravens walk away clean.
Yeah, they're going to lose Fire Giant just on Zap. Still a big deal, but you're going to be happy with getting an 18-minute Fire Giant on 4. Gilded Gladiators trying to grab a tier 1 tower in the meantime. I mean, love that pull, right? The Highland Ravens, once again, using this Chernobog to their advantage. They get the Fury. They decide to retreat. The Gilded Gladiators surge forward. They think they have a won fight. But the Riptide from Awesome Jake pulls Haddix back in. He says, "Oh, you're pulling me? I'm gonna pull damage into your team, right? If I'm here, I might as well use that Corpse Explosion." And then Zapman comes in full HP from base, finds Jangaru, finds some great damage, confirms that kill, and then was already behind the tower ready to close on Awesome Jake as well. That opens up an easy FG. The Gilded Gladiators do grab a Runic Bomb in the meantime, but now the Highland Ravens are able to group up and push with 4 members of their team having fire. There's still 3 tier 2 towers and 1 tier 1 to try and go through. Plenty of real estate on the map to try and get some gold in your pocket.
This push is not guaranteed, though, for the Ravens. I mean, this gold lead still only 2,000, maybe less than 2,000, and they've got a fire giant. It doesn't really feel nuts. We've in the past attributed this fire giant to 10,000 in the gold lead, but when you take it at 18 minutes contested after one fight, I don't know that I can attribute it to that much gold here early on. And then when they're fighting basically into evenly leveled members, even item spikes on the other side, they'll definitely be looking to defend tier 2s for my money.
I'm going to try to. Kana's over on right, so has not joined up with the squad just yet. A pluck from Hurriwind could be just what the team needs to start an engagement here, because again, this is not going to go down for free. If anything, Hurriwind's getting low.
Yeah, wow, poked down heavily, but the ultimate dropped, and Awesome Jake and Kana, they're left in the front lines when Fire Wheels takes Jake to the sky, but the follow-up is not there in time, and the Fear No Evil pushes everybody away.
Where's Zap going?
Zap's, oh my
What?
God, there's a Phoenix! He's burning the relics, and he's forced to use both, but they take down Kyrmi, who overcommits trying to punish. Zapman somehow gets away with murder under the Phoenix.
I can't believe Zap goes for that ultimate, but that's all for the Highland Ravens. They got the tier 2. Why not go for another tier 2? The Phoenix looks like a little bit too tall of a task to try and go for. But the Gilded Gladiators, they have their base right there. They've got Awesome Jake. They have plenty of sustain. All I see is low health bars. The Highland Ravens, they can't stick around here. If anything, they're trying to chase.
Yeah, Gladiators have to try and punish here. And Jangaru,
Jangaru?
he might have been bitten off more than he can chew. He uses the Aegis, but the tick damage will be enough. And Haddix finds the mid laner. Off the mark with when Fire Wheels scream. Looking for the engagement, but it's Haddix continuing on the damage, and Zapman finds Kana, and the push continues. You thought they were low. They still take the kills. They get the tier 2 tower as well.
They're going to grab another tier 2, head on back. Gold Fury already there. Once again, the Gilded Gladiators try and chase and realize they don't quite have the damage to do so. And I think the big difference maker in these fights, Frog, has been the outwash, right? Haddix is doing so much damage, and unlucky for Jangaru, the silence that Ben rolled on the first ability, sometimes it gets you, sometimes it doesn't if you're not ready for it. And I think Jangaru got caught right in the middle of that silence. Didn't want to beads, but sometimes you have to, right? If it was a Nox 2, you'd be worried about it. But since it's just the Baba first ability, you're like, wait, what? Why can't I move? Why can't I dash? Why can't I use anything? And Haddix says, hey, thanks for the Aegis, bro. I'm still going to kill you with Fleeting Breath.
Yeah, it's an astounding amount of pressure here. We talked about a 2-level lead that Jangaru had earlier on in this game. Well, it was now a 3-level deficit. He just ticks over to level 18, but Venenu beats him to 20 by a cool 3 minutes at this point. We'll see how long it really takes Jangaru to actually tick up to that final mark, but that's across the board for the Ravens, too. I mean, 2-level deficit in solo, a 4-level deficit
Snoopy's been
in ADC. Snoopy has been struggling to find farm on this map.
I think the real difference maker is the fact that Snoopy has been rotating to fights. And sometimes when you're behind, you got to play selfish. You got to say, boys, good luck. Zapman gets blinked on. Should be able to stall this one out for his team, but taking a lot of damage. He's trying to turn and fight instead. Hasn't went up to the sky yet.
He dashes away.
Wow.
He somehow is able to stay alive for long enough, but that's not long enough for his team to rotate over. In fact, they might look for the chase down onto Scream. Instead, though, a back off from the rest of the team. And the Highland Ravens, they choose to go for the objective. Pyromancer under pressure, and the Kana will not grab the stun onto Hurriwind. So the Ravens, Zap, I am still questioning that play. He manages to hold on to both of his relics.
They were enough. They just came up 3 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. He does get punished there maybe a little bit then, but I mean, while Fire Giant's up and they still have the positioning, maybe not too bad. He can ult back in if he needs.
Yeah, I really thought he would dash out immediately, but Scream shows up trying to help the ADC. Just a good play by the Gilded Gladiators to make that collapse, having the knowledge of, hey, this man's got no beads or Aegis for like 5 seconds. If we're going to force a play, it's now. But even with that one-man advantage, the Gilded Gladiators, instead of going for fire, they're going to try and kill Zap again. They know exactly where he is.
No way. This would be a crazy play.
Zap's ready for it.
Kyrmi, he pops the ultimate a little bit too early. Doesn't even get the relics off of Zapman, but Cxnnahh, he's looking to go for the miracle play. This would be, this is a 95-5. You gotta try to secure it if you're the Ravens, and you do indeed. Looks like they're gonna secure the kill as well if Cxnnah's not careful. The damage that they have will be enough to force the somersault cloud, but on the other side, Kyrmi's the one under pressure, and
Cxnnah, you went the wrong way!
He walked right into Zapman and will get taken down, so they lose one just for trying the steal, and the Ravens have FG on 5.
Yeah, Cxnnah did not want to stick around too long, was worried about the follow-up damage from the Highland Ravens, and now they siege forward. They've got the one-man advantage. Fear no evil, not quite up just yet, and the mid-Phoenix is the target. Here comes the Ravens. They don't have too many ultimates, but they're not here to fight. They're here to grab the Phoenix and probably get out.
Well,
or just siege forward, why not?
They might just keep walking forward. A huge Fear no evil gets the beads off a Scream, and we'll push 2 back, but Jake, he might have stepped up too far, down to half HP, trying to escape, and it will be enough for the time being, but the Windfire Wheels will seal the fate of the support, and Zapman finds the kill onto Awesome Jake. The waves go up, and they come down, but everybody from the Ravens gets out.
Yeah, they're going to have to retreat now. Still have Fire Giant on all 5 members, right? You're able to go back, get some more sustain, possibly grab the beacon. That would unleash the Titans, but if the Highland Ravens are looking to end the game, you don't want to unleash the Titans. Can you end the game this early is the question, and actually, Zapman says, you try to camp me near my buff, I'm going to try and fight you. Kyrmi gets the better end of that trade, so Zapman's got to run.
This could be a punish. If Snoopy's able to grab the last hit on this kill, which surely hit level 20, but unable to do so, and Kyrmi picks that one up. At least they do get the punish onto Zapman, and it'll take the Fire Giant away from the ADC one more time, but still plenty of time to work with on this buff for the Ravens if they want to grab the Gold Fury, potentially look to push down another one of these birds.
I can't bail him out this time, Frog. He definitely had both relics there. I guess he just knew he was dead, but I feel like with the monkey toss down, yeah, I guess you don't want to get the ult down. So, all right, he didn't want to waste his Aegis. Zap knew he was dead, or at least figure there's no way he was making it out. But look at this, the Gladiators pushing up right lane, grabbing a tier 2 tower. They're still splitting up this map, trying to find as much free farm as they can. Snoopy was 4 levels down. The beauty of level 20 is once you hit it, you can't go any higher. So Zapman's been sitting here. Finally, Snoopy is able to catch up and upgrade that Ornate Arrow, get a little bit of crit chance online for this Ishtar. It's going to help out in the DPS department, something the Gilded Gladiators definitely need. But Kyrmi's hiding near a speed buff. Who's your ideal target to walk forward? Scream's got no relics, and that's about it. That's your ideal target if Scream walks up, but unfortunately they're not going to find Scream. They're going to find a Crocodile instead.
I don't know if they have the damage to shut down Hurriwind.
We'll never know.
Waiting back in the wings. Yeah, he dashes away pretty instantly, as you would imagine anybody from the Ravens to do. But with this Fire Giant buff on for maybe just 40 or 45 more seconds, I think the Highland Ravens focused on the objective of the future. And my eyes are on EFG. I think when this Fire Giant spawns, it won't quite be to that EFG level, maybe just a minute or 2 away, but with how ahead the Ravens have been, I think they can just sort of wait for it, maybe try and force a fight around it, but I mean, that begs the question, if anybody can stop Zap, they don't even need a Fire Giant, do they?
TP.
Yeah, I mean, he could try and defend this. He won't. They'll just give it away. They won't be able to back for it.
Cxnnah had TP like that whole time. Or he could have stopped it, and TP'd back with his team. They didn't need that Phoenix anyways, Frog. It was facing the sun, you know. They didn't like the real estate of it. They like to clear fire minions. That's what it was.
No, are fire minions worth more? Is that? I think.
Oh, you know what? the wave pushes in, so you get farm brought to your base. It's like a free farm simulator.
Dude, you are onto something.
I have to find the silver linings because that was not. If it were me, I would have simply defended the Phoenix.
Yeah, you would think that might have been the more beneficial option for the Gilded Gladiators, but they let that left Phoenix go down. They do take down the Titan successfully. Unfortunately, this is a game where you have to take down 2 Titans to win.
That is true.
So it wasn't the Titan to win them the game, but with Kana pushing up this wave, I think he's pushing it up at the right time because now he's held on to that teleport. He can push up this wave and teleport over to the Fire Giant if they want to defend.
It's true. Already the Highland Ravens have aggressive position. This is not enhanced Fire Giant, but look at Kyrmi already going for a wrapper, and he's going to walk on a ward if he steps forward, and Hurriwind already spotted this one out. Does he have the pluck?
Kana
no.
as well.
Kana's also in the back on the Gilded Gladiators. They're just going to force a fight here?
Well, they have all of the information. The Ravens know where everybody is. The Blinken from Kana, the Fear No Evil from Kyrmi, none of it gets anything done. And now the pressure's back onto the Glad. Scream finds Kyrmi, Ven finds Jangaru, and everything has gone wrong for the blue squad. Jake pulled back into 4 and just trying to waste time, but he will get chased down ultimately. In fact, he might just be making time for the enhanced Fire Giant to take over if they want to wait for this. But, I mean, the Gilded Gladiators, they try to find something, and the Ravens just say no.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even going to wait for it. 30 seconds, why not? The Highland Ravens decide to walk up anyways. Puzzling, though, Frog. That's the thing. It's regular Fire Giant, 28, 29 minutes in. I think you just call it and say, yeah, we'll defend. We'll go to the base. We'll have our well to help us heal up. But you don't really have to force any of those fights. It's not enhanced Fire Giant. The base is still difficult to break at that point. But now, you lose Kyrmi, you lose Jangaru, you're about to lose a second Phoenix, because mid-Phoenix did respawn. Doesn't seem like the most worthwhile play, and certainly not a fight that they had to force.
A 5 versus 3 on that right Phoenix, but now with members spawned up, a 5 versus 5 if they want to force this, and it looks like they do. Kyrmi gets caught out. He tries to engage and won't find anything but death to meet him up in the front lines. Haddix and Scream pushing in with the rest of the squad, and it looks like the Titan will be the committal point. Frenzy popped, and the fight back looking to be had. Haddix down low, and Hurriwind low as well. But Zapman, he's on the other side of the fight, and the health bars are not enough. The Ravens, they try to call the end too early, and the Gladiators defend.
And this is what I'm talking about. Enhanced Fire Giant, maybe you make that end call because it's regular. The Highland Ravens grab a Phoenix, grab a second Phoenix, and just get out. The Gilded Gladiators could have made that same play without losing so many lives. Doesn't seem to matter at this point. The Highland Ravens get to back up, grab themselves an Oni Fury, and the base is in shambles. There are 3 birds down. The Highland Ravens have plenty of time to go back, get the last bit of upgrades, maybe some relics, maybe some 3K pots looking towards them, and then go for the last push towards that left side Phoenix with enhanced Oni minions. I mean, that's going to be a fire Oni wave if they get there quick enough. And I got to say, Zapman has been playing like an assassin. This man does not use the ultimate for safety. He goes, wait, Jangaru dashed? I'm going in. Like, he just absolutely flies towards the back line, and it is ridiculous. Hurriwind. 1 stack away.
He's got to get that last
prophetic
stack.
Cloak. It's probably magical, right? So he has to chase down either Jangaru or Awesome Jake to get the last stack, because there's just more physical damage dealers. It's easy to hit the Fizz guys, but we'll see if he ever connects a sickening strike versus Jangaru or Jake. But once again, the Gladiators are forcing another fight.
They're looking for something. Blinking onto Scream, but the Windfire wheels, he's setting up for it. And Jake has separated himself in the fight, waiting for the right time to use the ultimate. But Scream, he's caught in the center of 4, and the space that he makes is infinite. Zapman and Haddix find 2. Awesome Jake forced to run away. And Kana, he's going to be forced up the lane as well. Snoopy trying to defend against fire minions, but the Glad step up, and they get punished again.
As you would expect. What else is going to happen when you force a fight this much gold down, 4v5, while your ADC is clearing minions? It's just, that wasn't a fight that was going to ever go the way of the Gilded Gladiators, and now it's going to be almost impossible to keep this Titan alive.
This would have to be a miracle from the Gladiators, because the Ravens, they've got 5 pushing into the Titan room. They've got fire minions to help, and they've got damage onto the Titan. Game 1 to the Ravens. defense.
And I really loved the aggression early on from the Gilded Gladiators, right? Kyrmi was consistently finding those ultimates. The rest of the team was grouping around him. He was dictating the pace of the game. But there became a point when Haddix started rotating. Kana sort of stayed over in solo. The Outwash got some big damage off. And more specifically, the Glad started forcing strange fights that didn't seem to need to happen, right? There are times when you just need to defend. And that seemed like one of those times. Actually, 2 of those times.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like there were a lot of times in that game where you could say patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
You just wait around for the next Fire Giant opportunity. You wait for EFG. You wait for them to push
Make a
into your
mistake.
Phoenix. You get a 6th man. You wait for them to make a mistake because Zapman was really asking for it. He had some mistakes, man. You could have taken advantage of. Either way, the Gladiators, they've got to take a long look at game number 1, try and come back into game 2 with a renewed sense of how they want to play. We'll see game number 2 right after the break.
got interesting around here. It's okay to be impressed. Wiki wiki. Don't worry, I gotcha.
That's right. Thanks to our good friends over at Advanced GG, we've added yet another shaker and flavor to the SMITE family. You can pick up the Maui shaker and the Tropical Splash flavor right now over at advanced.gg/SMITE. If you purchase them in the bundle, it's already a nice discount, but if you want to buy them separately or just buy anything else over on their website, you can use code SMITE to get 10% off of that order. Thank you so much for Advanced GG for partnering with us once more to provide yet another beautiful shaker and flavor over to it. And look, I don't need to try and tell this. See, look at that thing. That is a beautiful shaker. The flavor is great as well, a peach strawberry, so make sure you go over and buy one over with Advanced GG. Game number 1, inbound. This looked really good for the Gladiators for the first 5 or so minutes of the game, a 3-0 start. But then things started to kind of fall apart for the Gladiators. The Highland Ravens just able to overweigh them as far as coming into team fights. There was a good moment by the Gladiators around the Gold Fury team fight that looked good. They got to the Gold Fury. They got a jump start. And then they're just staying a little bit too long into these team fights. And the Highland Ravens are able to out-sustain or at least the healing that's being provided for the Gladiators team.
And you'd think a comp with Yemoja would actually be able to out-sustain in a lot of these comps, but that Opwash anti-heal it's providing is doing enough that you're able to actually slowly chase out a lot of value from this Chernobog also. Yemoja first picked, not a ton of value this game that the Gladiators ended up getting from it. Not nearly as much as that late game Baba, late game Chernobog. And look, early game, fantastic by the Gladiators. As you said, that first 5 minutes, they were on top of things. Unfortunately, if you don't keep up on that, the fights aren't looking as clean. The objectives are not nearly looking as clean. They start to slowly fall behind. Their team fight comp, that is the idea of their comp, and their team fights just seem really disjointed also.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments where either Kana was trying to push forward to get a team fight started for the Gladiators, or maybe Kyrmi was trying to go in and get a big Fear No Evil to try and scatter these team fights and kind of break things up a little bit, but never really on the same page with each other during those. There's a lot of, I'm going to go in, and then the team's like, okay, well, that's really good for you, but what about us? Like, you're already too far forward in that case. I mean, decent base defenses could have come through had the Gilded Gladiators not been so far behind by that point. I mean, yeah, an Ishtar, good for some of the range damage to be able to keep things out. Agni, great for base defense, but we never really got a chance to look at any real siege defense from the Gladiators because by the point that time we got to that point of the game, the Highland Ravens are already so far up. Had a big win for the Ravens here in game number 1. 8-4 for Zapman, 1-0-10 for Hurriwind, and I support Slashline, Undying for Haddix as well over there on the Opwash. Great start for the Ravens here in the set.
And I think that's something I want to highlight. This Opwash was the final pick, and the amount of value it had compared to this Wukong, which was picked second on first pick side, it was night and day. There was way too much value from this Opwash, and an 0-2-0, not a lot of damage coming from the Wukong. There wasn't enough there. Now, we've seen this Wukong picked a lot by Kana. He likes it, but it's not the meta. We've seen the meta shift away from these warriors, and there's a lot more mages over there. We need to see Kana either adapt or maybe play something else that's just not this Wukong.
Yeah, let's see if the Gilded Gladiators and if Kana as well in the Soul Lane can make a change as we jump into the picks and bans for game number 2 between the Gladiators and the Ravens. Now, I neglected to mention this in game number 1, so I'll mention here in game number 2. We did see 1 kill for Scream, and people are like, wow, 1 kill for Scream. That doesn't sound that big.
Scream.
Good job, Scream. The reason I say that is because now with that kill, Scream is only 4 away from 2,500 competitive kills over the course of his career. So if he can find 4 more either in this game or over the course of the rest of the set, he'll hit that 2,500 barrier. I think one of the last times I actually brought up a kill, something like that, I think it was Mike was a few kills away from 1,000 at one point, and then he got none over the course. I think he got one. He got 1 kill over the course of like a 3 or 4 game set. But as a support, sometimes it's a little tougher to get. I will say I think Lazar took one of them away from him. He had a guaranteed kill with no escape, and Lazar was like, and basic attack, that one's mine. But
darn junglers.
Always got to take things away. Always got to get the kills for themselves, like Scream, who now needs, again, 4 more until he hits 2,500. Recap now on the bans. They're the exact same so far as they were in game number 1. Sans the Opwash, that's the new one. Added here by the Gilded Gladiators, and I think that's an easy adaptation. Haddix had a great game. If you want to first pick the Yemoja, get rid of a god that can punish that healing so easily.
And I think these solo lane mages seem more difficult to play against, and they're just more wonkier styles. This Ama is going to be let through now, but we've seen Kana play this Amaterasu, so I think it's more of a comfort thing where they'll ban away the Opwash because maybe Kana doesn't play it or they just don't want to prio it so high, but they'll lock in the Ama, and Kana's looked great on the Ama. If you're playing a warrior, I think Ama is a perfectly fine warrior to play, but I think she might be the only one that is actually in that top tier. And the Yemoja banned by the Ravens, and first pick Chernobog by the Gladiators, and you got to be happy with the Chernobog pick.
I mean, he has been one of, if not the #1 picked or banned gods over the last 4 or 5 weeks of competitive play, so can't be too upset being able to grab that god for yourself on the Gladiators. But what do you leave open for the Ravens? Well, it's Baba Yaga once more for Venenu, Ratatoskr, now for the jungler. And I think talking about the solo lane meta is an important one because, as you mentioned, we've been seeing mages kind of make their home over there. It's mostly just been the 3 that the Gladiators have banned away. Raijin's really made a home for the solo lane. Opwash, though flexible towards mid, as we saw with Paul and the 6 Ferryman, still had a home in the solo lane before when Baskin was playing it. And Hades has pretty much always been solo. We see a couple of stray moments where he pops into another role, whether it be jungle or mid, but solo lane has kind of been his home. So now we might see that return to form with the Warriors or maybe some Guardians over there.
Yeah, and I think it's correct to highlight Guardians as a possibility. We saw the Sobek yesterday. Didn't look too great, but it's still an opportunity. We saw Xing Chen, also didn't look that great. Serb, I think, is a big highlight one. That is one that we can very likely expect to see, especially if this Ama's locked in, because we actually saw a solo. We don't see those very often in solo lane. We saw Serb solo the Amaterasu just 2 days ago, so that is a matchup that is very Serb-sided, and with this Ama being hovered and Kana liking this Ama, it's definitely something that they're thinking about. Naja also, after Scream's last game, you see a lot of value that this Naja brings. The time wasted, the CC, the ability to just kind of waste the backliner's time is just so nice.
It will be Naja and Amaterasu for the Gilded Gladiators. Get something for Kyrmi, I think, early in the draft. Suits him very well because it was, I think, 9th pick almost for him, or is at least the 4th pick for the Gladiators at that point before we got to see what Kyrmi went through, and that was after having 4 dedicated bans and then 1 pick away from him before. So might see the early prio towards the jungler. That leaves open Anhur now for the Highland Ravens, which is kind of seemingly out of nowhere, kind of popped his way up into the meta for the Hunters. I mean, we came into this phase with like maybe 1 or 2 Anhur games at most. Seems now that every Hunter in the league is starting to go towards this god.
If Chernobog is picked or banned, Anhur's kind of like that next god available. Him and like Rama are in that tier. And it's for no surprising reason. The person who's bringing it out, Coast, is dominating with it. And we've seen it a couple times from Zapman, a couple times from Pandacat, and it's looked very good. And I think his problems where he doesn't, play as well late game, or at least that used to be the thought. With a few of his buffs, he jumps quicker now. That change was a little while ago. The slow on the 1 is also a lot nicer. So he's got a lot more self-sufficiency and self-peel in the backline, and you can actually survive a lot. So this Anhur does seem to be getting a little bit more value. And the Ravens with that Anhur pick are banning away the Ares, the Aphrodite, Horus for the Gladiators. A lot of support bans here. And the Ravens actually have the support pick out, so Jake might be going down his list of available supports, and he might have to go to something pretty niche. And a little bit of a Poseidon ban, which is something we've only seen a couple times, and it's not seemed too great.
No, we've seen some success on the Poseidon. I think we saw it solo from Baskin earlier this week, if I remember correctly. We also saw it mid lane once as well, so hasn't really had a resurgence like a lot of the other mages have. Definitely seen a little bit of light. Charon seems to be the next go-to whenever it comes to Awesome Jake, when his top 3 or 4 get banned away, being the ones that are all taken out by the Ravens. This Charon has kind of been his fallback plan. And then currently for Jangaru, hovering over the Morrigan and going to lock this one in. Not an insane amount of transformation targets just yet for the Morrigan. Immediately, I look over, I see a Ratatoskr. That's a nice and simple addition to your arsenal there. But having this Morrigan kind of be your primary magic damage, this Charon going to be really up into the front line. Feels like you're almost going to kind of leave this Chernobog by himself for a while.
Yeah, this Glad's comp is a full dive, no holds barred, dive, kill the backline type of comp. There is very little front to back with the amount of CC they have. Yes, They have a single target stun from Naja, single target stun from Morrigan. But this is going to be them trying to dive and trying to kill the Ravens backline. And looking at the Ravens backline, so far, maybe we see something funky and this Baba might go solo. But I'm going to assume it's Baba mid. No reason to assume not to. Baba Anhur as a backline comp, and Fafnir's peeling him out. There's a lot of safety there, so it's going to be hard to dive that. And with this Tiamat getting hovered, possibility, we have not seen it yet. I'm not going to get my hopes up too much that we're going to see this Tiamat. But I mean, we've been seeing a lot of mages in solo lane, so there's always the possibility.
Now we'll wait to see what gets selected for Haddix over in the solo lane. But I do kind of want to now discuss, now that we have seen the Sun Wukong, not an insane amount of CC coming from the Highland Ravens. I mean, Fafnir, single target stun. Anhur has the jump and the impale. Typically, you're only going to be getting those towards one person anyways. Don't really want to jump into 3 or 4 unless you need to. Ratatoskr's got to be fairly close with that dash to be able to get that there. So it feels like a bit more pick-oriented style here from the Highland Ravens, and maybe more emphasis towards objectives. I mean, whenever I see Fafnir on a team, I think this is a team that wants to do fires, they want to do pyros, Golfiers, they want to be hitting those, and then wait for the team fight a little bit afterwards.
And we saw the Fafnir yesterday, just sprinting to objectives and 1, 2, 3 shotting them in 2, 3 seconds. If you play this Fafnir, you're playing around objectives, yes. But looking at both comps, these aren't really normal front-to-back comps. There's a lot of dive potential on the Gladiator side. The Raven side, it's somewhat, traditional, but it is still just a little bit off. Have not seen a ton of Fafnir. The Anhur is played, yes. The Wukong is played, yes. But they're farther down, that tier list of hunters and warriors or solo laners. The Ravens comp, though, does one thing very, very well. It kills whoever is getting CC'd by this Fafnir. Who's ever getting hit by that Fafnir stun should be dying, and there's not a ton of, CC perma-dive like a Cthulhu where that stun is something you can kind of ignore. So if somebody gets stunned on the Glad side, that might have to just be the all-in call that they have to make, and they might have to just dive when that stun happens from the Fafnir.
Yeah, it just feels like a very kind of scrappy-oriented style of match that we might be seeing here between these two teams. Not really a whole lot of major team fight, giant AoE circles and kind of no play zones like we saw previous. Yemoja, Batz, those are gods that want to get big, sweeping team fight style of ultimates, where these ones are a bit more conditional. The largest kind of AoE team fight that we see is really from the Gladiators on this side. You have a Charon throw the wave out, Amaterasu, the conal stun, but all still fairly close range in that instance. So for the Gilded Gladiators, they had a great start to their last game, a very nice, strong first 5 to 10 or so minutes of the game, but then started falling apart beyond there. What's kind of the curve here for the Gilded Gladiators to try and find themselves to a better mid and then a better late game?
Well, I think their late game is phenomenal this game, but it is that scrappy style as you highlighted. There's not a ton of easy CC, just hit this guy when he gets stunned and we'll kill him. This is going to be setting up fights onto someone and then maybe having to ignore said frontliner and dive the backliner after, because they have no normal mage. It's a Morrigan. Morrigan's transformation's not looking too great. I mean, you have Rat, Wukong, but there's not an Opwash, something where you can just transform and get this big AoE dominance. It's a different Morrigan game. It's mostly going to be played for that stun, the one-shot potential, and then transform to get out. But that is how this Glad team wants to play, so I think it's going to work pretty well.
Well, let's see if the Gilded Gladiators can tie up the set here in game number 2, or are the Ravens going to get themselves to match point? Let's jump right in with the casters.
Gladiators versus Ravens, game number 2. And we've got the Glads pushing to a tied set. Ravens looking to be on match point. You've got Frog, you've got Trelly, you've got Doug taking us through the battleground. And Trelly, Bobby was talking on the desk. This Morrigan from Jangaru, it's got me curious because I've seen it before. We've seen it before in the league already, and he does like to play this assassin style of play where you go the poly, you just get in there behind everybody,
Right.
and then you transform. I just don't know how that mixes with a Naja though. I'm worried about follow up.
Which gob are you talking about?
The Morrigan.
Yeah, you said this. The more. Never mind.
Well, the Morrigan can be any god.
I was making a dumb joke because you said this Morrigan. I wanted to say this the Morrigan. It's a terrible way to phrase it, but that is how it goes. In this case, I actually like the double Naja combo if you can pull it off, where basically either A, if you both sash and ult someone at the same time, it's basically you both go up to the sky, right? So that's just double Najah damage. Not the best way to use it. In fact, I think more often than not, Jangaru is going to be Ratatoskr, right? That is the easier option. However, you can also take someone with no beads, ult them into the sky, turn to Najah, wait for them to come down, and then ult them again, and it's just infinite CC chain. That is also a possibility, as we can see Kyrmi forced into the beats early on because of how much damage Jangaru and Kyrmi have. But Scream, that's the benefit of the rat early, right? You have that Acorn Blast, you have plenty of damage. Both beads from the jungler's gone.
Okay, hold on a second, because I want to make sure I understand your point. Are you saying that if Jangaru transforms and Kyrmi and then Jangaru, hold that thought, Jangaru under some pressure, Scream, you're right, the rat is definitely trying to bring the damage. Scream, I think, really wants those 4 more kills to bring him over the 2,500 mark. We'll have to see if he can confirm those in this game. But, I mean, are you saying that if 2 Najahs ult the same target at the same time, they'll both go up?
They will both go to the sky with the same target, and you will see them both in your little cutscene, you know, where you will see 2 Najahs. I hope they do it. We'll get to see it. I promise you, that's how it works.
That's crazy.
It looks like an Avengers fight where it just you see 2 Najahs just going back and forth.
Dude, what an interaction.
And it's not even that hard to pull off because the person that you're ulting isn't quite up into the air until they're way up in the sky. So you can ult even a little bit late as the second Najah, and you will hold them up just a little bit higher. The Morrigan has some wonky interactions, man. I do think Jangaru is going to stick with the rat, but there are some niche times when you know someone doesn't have beads and you just want to CC them for half the game where you could pull that off.
Well, plus the cool factor.
Of course.
The cool factor definitely considering there. Kyrmi under some pressure, and so far this mid 2v2 has had no shortage of action, and possibly why Scream goes back to the rat. You know, of course, Kyrmi, I think, selects this Najah early on, so Scream unable to go back to it, but this is a pick that he's looked good on throughout the season as well, something that he was playing potentially even before it was being played by the rest of the league. And Rat brings a ton to the table. You get global pressure, you get facilitation, and you get maybe a little bit of a different build here from Scream, because he is itemizing in already, not towards any of the damage acorns, but he wants a tank acorn this time around, and that'll help him secure the blue buff invade as well. But he wants to be a facilitator.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the double flurry. That is something that some of these tankier style junglers like to go. The healing one, not my favorite, but we'll have to see exactly which acorn Scream favors here, just because tank junglers are in the meta. Not necessarily full tank, but you get yourself a breastplate, you get yourself an Oni Hunter's Garb, a Genji, something like that, just for even more tank stats. And, you know, the Flurry Acorn actually does benefit from that. I believe that's a Thistlethorn, so they have that option if Scream wants to go towards it. But more specifically, you gotta watch out for who you're trying to fight. In this situation, there's no one coming over but Kyrmi. Or this shield buff, maybe the Highland Ravens getting baited if Kyrmi can get here fast.
2 versus 2, and Jangaru, he joins the fight as well when Fire Wheels up into the air for Hurriwind, and the damage will not be there on landing, just barely. He gets to jump off, but Jangaru finds the last bit of it, and first blood to the Glads.
That's the benefit of having that Chernobog. You have the ability to just show up immediately, and more often than not, you get there first, but here comes through the Cosmos. Misses the stun. Awesome Jake should be just fine, but doesn't have the row. Finally comes up. Tower shot gets taken, but Awesome Jake gets out for free. A little bit of a late rotation there from Scream. But that's the benefit, right? Mid laners get more farm than duo lane. That's just a fact. If you're not getting first blood, you're not hitting level 5 first, you don't have access to Chernobog ultimate, but Jangaru has it, and he's going to show up immediately, making sure to confirm that first blood, putting down Hurriwind.
That's another bit of the Morrigan ultimate that we haven't talked about, is that transition. Hold that thought though, because the rotation is back on. Zapman, he's got some pressure here, but Kyrmi with the rotation back in, early beads and a late beads from Kyrmi as well. The impale came through and pushed him away.
Ooh, nice
But
hammer.
a great stun through the wall, great peel from Hurriwind will save the life of Zapman there, and Kyrmi's ultimate back up in just a couple of seconds. If he had that Windfire Wheels back up, Zap was surely dead.
Yep, that's a difference maker. Didn't have the CDR just yet. Couldn't finish that Jotun's Wrath, so will not be able to go for it. Now Kana getting dove underneath the tower. Does have Dazzling Offensive, but clearly doesn't have the mana to use it. Is just trying to juke around, and Haddix gets to pick this one up. It's about as easy as a kill as you're going to get. Unfortunate for Kana. Just did not have the HP or the mana to try and juke around. That's not bad. Getting a kill onto the Sun Wukong, who bringing a bit of an older build back. I guess not that old, but for a minute, Frostbound Hammer was an item that some of these warriors were favoring. The Hercules, I guess the Wukong in this case. Fell out of favor for a bit, but it looks like it's back. Just very annoying to try and deal with when you're getting auto attacks so often. That slow can really start to get annoying.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised it's not the Rune Forged, given how much we've been seeing that item.
Course, yeah.
But I mean, it will affect. It brings down the attack speed as well, which is gonna help, I think, with a little bit of that objective shred. Certainly, always something in the back of your mind when there's an Amaterasu on the enemy side, and
he's so slowed. Look at him. Look how slow he is.
Even with the movement speed,
he's just trying to body
that he's
block
got
him.
around. But I mean, Haddix, he feels so comfortable in this lane fighting, and I think he wanted to go back to one of these mages. I'm sure he would have gone back to the Raijin or to the Op Watch had it been up in the picks and bans. But he's forced back onto the warrior, and I mean, Ama and Wukong, really the only two consistent warriors we're seeing when we're not seeing these mages.
And you know the other thing that I've been noticing, a lot of these warriors in the solo lane have been picking up the Ward Chalice. But Haddix, he is Wukong. He's not going to be getting ganked. There's no fear for his life. He just picked up double Chalice and said, I will be buying 0 wards this game. I just want to get my Ward Chalice. Don't ask me to Sentry. It's not going to happen. So now Haddix doesn't have to spend any money on it. He's just going to sit here in lane, essentially free farm because Kana can't pressure him, and just get his infinite sustain and infinite vision on the left or the right side of the map.
Well, you know what? If I can get my solo laner placing wards at all, that's a win for the squad. So he'll at least have regular wards, and that is something to be said. That being said, he hasn't placed them yet. He's still got.
He's not worried.
Wards.
You know, there's no ganks. Kyrmi's not coming over. He's gonna get slowed. You know how slow he's gonna be.
He just placed one. He just placed one on the enemy blue buff. Is where when he wants to be aggressive, and Kyrmi wants to be aggressive as well, looking for the damage onto Venenu. But a good home sweet home will prevent the damage coming through, and Jangaru actually transforms into the Sun Wukong. Maybe worried about a little bit more follow-up there from the rotation onto Scream. The fight continues on the left side as well. Zapman putting down a little bit of pressure, but ultimately a couple ultimates expended, no kills.
Yeah, Zap actually went for a switch up in the build. There has been some Aussie starts, as Ven, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever you want to call it, does juke out that ability. Pre-beats from Jangaru, fearing the ultimate, and Scream is going to pull it. Now Snoopy flies in. I'm not sure that's even worth it. Snoopy misses a full wave just to, I guess, watch Jangaru get out. Yeah, not the ultimate you want to be using there. It looks like Jake tried to save it for him, but just going to be getting behind a little bit because of that. I understand, and hey, I'd rather have him use it than not and Jangaru die, but doesn't end up getting much value from it. And that purple buff is really all Snoopy gets to farm at the moment. But either way, farm all across the map. Man, you can really tell that Ven is just power farming. Level 11, while Hurriwind just ticked over to 7, was level 6 at one point. This Baba Yaga is going to be a threat. Already finished the Book of Thoth, going into either Divine or Spear of Deso. That's always going to be the build path. But it just gets more and more damage. There's a reason this pick is one of the top mid laners in the meta, and it's because of the speed you can stack those items and the speed you can farm.
The farming dynamic in this dual lane has been interesting in both games, but we'll hold that thought. Gold Fury being taken down. Shell gets popped just to tank this one up, and it pre-beads the Gilded Gladiators. They secure the Gold Fury, and they might even find the return kill if they have enough damage, and they do. Scream will fall early on, but a trade onto Kyrmi, and the home sweet home. Jangaru caught in a rough spot, tries to trade it out, but Zapman will survive, and a 2-for-1 Gold Fury goes to the Glads.
Yeah, Scream shows up, has to make the risky play and say, hey guys, I'm going to go in for the steal, but at the very least, I'm going to start this fight. We have to try and find something. Don't find the steal, but they find some kills after the fact, which end up being just fine for the Highland Ravens. Glads, though, I like the heads-up play of, hey, we're not winning too many fights, but maybe we can bait something in, maybe we can go in for a pull. And it was at a pretty decent time. It really was only the Ratatoskr that was nearby to go in for that low-stakes steal. And it ends up paying off for him. You just can't get everyone out, and that's the big issue. If Jangaru has ultimate, maybe that goes a bit differently. And honestly, I think that Wukong transformation was a little bit unnecessary, so the Gladiators could have made it out a lot better. in that situation. Jangaru did beads, that's why we see a little bit of pressure over there, and Scream just using the double flurry onto Snoopy, letting him know just how much damage this rat can do, especially early on to a level 9 Chernobog. That's going to be very nice to see as the Scream sort of this build comes through. So far isn't going into too much tank stats, but I imagine next item we might see some physical defense.
And just how hard he is to kill as well, because Snoopy was trading auto attacks pretty much that whole time, and he just didn't really fall down to, you know, 80% HP is really where he was. Meanwhile, Haddix, he is maintaining his lead, a cool 2 levels ahead, maybe 2.5 over here on this right-hand side. And, I mean, thus far it hasn't really gotten him much. They did get that 1 kill onto the solo laner, but up until the point where Haddix rotates, maybe it'll be, you know, this next neutral objective or beacon in just 60 seconds. But, I mean, in order to use this lead, Haddix has to start getting involved.
Yeah, so far has fully upgraded the teleport, so has the ability to get active for sure. Nearby, though, no objectives. I think the beacon might be where we actually do see these warriors rotate over. Cxnnahh hasn't really put the gold into the upgrade. Steals away Haddix's blue buff as well, but forces out the ultimate. Ven's here. Don't think you have too much to try and chase down that would need a Tiger Stun, and they don't have it. So Cxnnahh steals the buff and gets out for free. But beacon spawns in here in 20 seconds. Cxnnahh could go back to base, upgrade that teleport, and rotate over, but if Haddix doesn't show himself, Cxnnah's got no reason to think that's necessary.
Yeah, Cxnnahh, I'm surprised. From 2 levels down, goes for the blue buff invade and doesn't even get punished for it. But he's not here for this fight. It's Kyrmi under a ton of pressure, and the shell's not enough. Scream in on the damage, and will get the transformation out of Jangaru. And before he can get up into the air, Venenu finds himself on a killing spree. 2 kills for the mid laner, and might be trying to make it 3 as the dash from Snoopy will not be enough to keep him alive. A triple, make it a quad, not for him though, for the team. A 4 for nothing there in the mid lane, and the Ravens looking clean.
And once again, Frog, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, Cxnnahh had the teleport, ended up just going to right lane, didn't decide to rotate in, seemed like the fight was dead. I hate to say it, but you know what? Now that I think about it, I tend to agree. I don't think there was really a chance for the Highland Ravens to lose that fight then. If you're going to give Ven a triple kill, Jangaru doesn't even get up to the ultimate into the Somersault Cloud, maybe the fight was just dead and Cxnnah's best option was to rotate around because Snoopy wasn't even in lane. I mean, Zap gets the tower over on left. It wasn't like Snoopy was getting farmed during it all, so someone has to do some farming while your team is getting just completely destroyed in mid lane, and that was the call. Cxnnah said, you know what, I'll split push because I'm not rotating to that fight.
Yeah, that's a lot of farm for the Ravens who were involved in that fight, though. It's a half a level lead for support, 2 levels in mid, 1.5 in jungle, and still maintaining that lead is Haddix as well, despite that rotation. You rotate and you get nothing, maybe that's a win, right? If you get nothing off that fight, Ravens aren't able to come away with it. Maybe even Cxnnah closes the gap entirely, but you get 4 kills, everybody's getting at least, 4 assists, right? Yep. If not a couple of last hits there. So it's a lot of farm for the Ravens as well. And I think that's given them the positioning. It feels like they have all the pressure on the map right now. They're looking to steal the purple buff, and they're positioned around the Gold Fury as well.
Yep, and this is when Snoopy unfortunately has to just live here. And this is the big adaptation from last game that we didn't see. When you are this far behind, when you don't have a tower this early on, when your team is just losing fights, I don't want to see Snoopy rotate. I think he needs to stay in this lane as much as possible. The ult needs to be only when a fight looks extremely winnable, which it probably won't for the foreseeable future. There goes the Fafnir transformation. Easy Primal Fury, unless Awesome Jake has something to say about it, but looks like a possible attempt at a fight over near red buff, but that's Haddix. He's not going to die very easy. There's a double ult, but for what? They didn't do it at the same time.
They bring him into the air twice, and all the while, Awesome Jake is the recipient of a ton of damage from this Ravens. Meanwhile, Haddix's clone is pushing down, and Cxnnah, he's just farming. He's in the enemy jungle, taking away the red buff. And the Ravens, they can't do anything wrong, it feels like. Haddix, he's continuing to push down. Now the blink in and the engage, it's there. Scream wants to continue, but looks like it will just be the back off. And man, my eyes are on the kill column because Scream, he told me before this set that he was going to reach that 2,500. He knew he was at the milestone. He's got 0 kills. Trelly. That's not really coming through.
And he got one last game, right?
Yep.
So he's
4 kills away.
4 kills off 2,500. Scream, we're going to need some more out of you. Or maybe it's Ven's fault. Ven, we're going to need less last hitting, man. All right, if Ven's just like uncontested top damage, then I'll accept it. Yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough that we know Ven's a last hitter. That's what's happening here. Scream has been getting active. 8 assists. Hasn't been able to confirm a single one.
Wow. Yeah, great kill participation. In fact, 100% kill participation. But just cannot, find any of those last hits. We'll see as the game rounds out if he'll look to. And, frankly, it's hard for the Ravens to find a bad fight right now, is what it feels like. They are 7,000 gold in the lead. Last game, they took this Fire Giant essentially from even. They were even in the gold lead, and they took an 18-minute Fire Giant. This time, they are wildly ahead, it feels like.
How about a 16-minute Fire Giant?
How about a 16-minute Fire Giant? Fafnir, it allows you to do things like that, and this lead doesn't hurt either. It's only going to be Cxnnahh in the vicinity. He tried for the Miracle Steal in game number 1, but I don't know that he has it in him this time around. The wave is a little bit early from Jake, but as it gets lower and lower, have to question the coin toss. The ultimate is there, looking for the secure, and it's not there. Ravens find the secure. The steal does not go through, and the Gladiators, they're getting chased after the fact. Awesome Jake, a great pillar will prevent the escape, and they'll grab the Fire Giant and one more.
Frog, I would love to spin you a yarn, but we don't have time for that because the Highland Ravens are pushing forward. They don't care about the split push over on left. They're going to go in for the mid-Phoenix. Teleport from Cxnnahh comes in, but you might be teleporting into a stun and maybe some death. Insta-beads necessary because Kyrmi, he's taking a lot.
Oh, he tries to get the ultimate off. I heard the animation, but he gets killed too quickly. 7-0 now for Venenu. The last hitter grabs a couple more kills. And this time around, the Highland Ravens, they take down one in the mid, they take down one under the bird, grab themselves the mid-Phoenix early on in the power play.
I mean, what you know about a 17-minute Phoenix? That is a very rare occurrence, especially when the Runic Bomb was used for Fire Giant confirmation. It wasn't like it was necessary for that push. 7-0-2 for Venenu. 0-1 for Scream, still not getting up to that kill count. But I would like to spin you a yarn, if you would allow me, as we get some of this action dying down. What's the most bot item in the game at the moment? You can see 3 of them just glowing out for the Highland Ravens.
It's BOV, not bot.
Okay, either way. The upgrade here for the breastplate.
Bod.
Kyrmi has one, and he decides to go for the other upgrade. He says breastplate of vigilance. He doesn't care about breastplate of determination. He doesn't care about the extra protections, movement speed. He wants the extra auto attack basic damage aura, which is odd for me because he didn't even live long enough to get his ult off last time, so he couldn't even really get the value from it.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one because he was hit by a lot of abilities, and you see there when you're hit by an ability, you gain protections. And so he would have gotten value under that Phoenix if he had the breastplate of determination because he was hit by a lot.
Well, I can see the mindset. I'm going to take someone up. I'm going to come down. I need the extra, aura so I can survive. I just think he might have misclicked, honestly.
No, we haven't seen that upgrade in quite a bit. And for all of the breastplate of valors that we've been seeing, for all of the upgrades, basically 100% of the upgrades thus far do have been in the other direction. Kyrmi may be thinking that he's got a
tiger chasing a bird.
A tiger chasing a bird in the 72 transformations, 2 of them versus each other. Just having a little bit of fun in the jungle. But importantly, though, that burns the Morrigan ultimate away. And he's not going to be here for this Phoenix. This time, Kyrmi gets the ultimate off, but it's just onto the support and Snoopy. He's forced to run away the entire time. Cxnnahh gets taken down as well. Zapman finds that one, and they're just continuing on the rampage. Scream finds a third, and it's now a 5 versus 2 if they want to try and push this one down. The health bars, they're not too low for the Highland Ravens. They might just look for the end. Wards down, Zapman in front of the Phoenix here. Will try to get the damage onto the Titan. I don't know that they have enough to prevent it. And the Gladiators, despite trying to put up a defense, The Ravens just too strong, and at 20 minutes close out game 2.
20 minutes and 9 seconds, Frog. That is some record-setting pace. Not necessarily. I think the Oni Warriors have had some quick sets this time, but that is ridiculous. It is very difficult to pull a 17-minute Phoenix, as we highlighted. It's difficult to pull a 16-minute Fire Giant, as we highlighted. But 4 minutes later, they are killing the Titan. I mean, that is utter dominance. There was not much that the Gilded Gladiators could really do to try and stop that. I mean, their early game aggression has been their strong suit. When you look at Gladiator sets, they're able to pull early leads. They can't really translate that into the late game.
Yeah.
This time around, they don't even get that.
Wow. That is, I mean, they try to put something on. I feel like Kyrmi was ulting.
For sure.
I don't feel like they were just sitting back and waiting for it to come to them.
That is true.
Like, they were trying to execute their game plan, but every single time the Ravens had an answer where they needed to. Game number 2 goes to the Ravens. They're on set point. You're not going to want to miss game number 3. Stick around after the break.
Highland Ravens get this one done in quick fashion. 20 minutes and 9 seconds to close out Game 2 here against the Gilded Gladiators. Not the fastest game of the phase inbound, but very close to it. I think 13 seconds shy of being able to tie up at least what the Oni Warriors did just earlier on, a sub 20 minute from them. But this one just felt like Venenu completely controlled this game, 7-0 on the Baba Yaga at one point. We look up in that game, and that's the point where they're then rushing down towards the Titan. The Gilded Gladiators, they just could not get the ball rolling at any point during this game.
Yeah, I think this was a tough game for the Glads to even come back from. They didn't even have that early lead like they did Game 1. Game 1, they got off to that early lead. They were able to kind of establish something. This game, it wasn't the same thing. A couple mess-ups in the early game, mess-ups in the mid-game. I think this Baba's got to be the talking point for this game. Game 1, they early proud it. Game 2, they've early proud it. And Venenu's looked really good on it both games. A lot of defensiveness, good enough damage. I mean, 7 kills on a character that really isn't going to be getting that many kills early game, mostly just farming, but still able to get 7. We talked about a little bit with the Glad's problems in the back, and we were just saying they just didn't have enough damage to actually kill. A lot of, the breastplate of... What's the blue breastplate that Kyrmi
Vigilance.
got? Breastplate of Vigilance that Kyrmi got. That's something you're investing into more tankiness instead of being able to kill. And you could just tell the Glads just did not have the damage in a lot of these fights.
And it's so strange because when you see the 2 breastplates, you have determination. That one, you get hit by abilities, you stack up more defenses, and that's great. That's what you'd want, especially on a god that's going to get in and out of team fights like you would for Kyrmi on this Najah. But Vigilance is that I hit ultimate, now basic attacks do less to me. I'm not worried about basic attacks when Venenu's 7-0 on a Baba Yaga. I mean, it probably wasn't 7-0 by the time that he bought that, but if I'm getting slammed by Baba Yaga damage, by Ratatoskr, by Sun Wukong, basic attacks isn't really my worry at that point. Probably the other breastplate glyph might have done a little bit more for him, or maybe skip the upgrade for the time being and go towards a little bit more defensive or offensive style options.
Yeah, I mean, he was sitting at 2 items, and most of the Ravens comp had 3 items each. Going into that upgrade, maybe it's just something you have to forego and get that Runeforged earlier, or be able to go into another flat pen item even earlier. But yeah, I mean, as you can see across the board, Kyrmi's only doing 6,000, Snoopy's doing 7. I mean, Zap only did 7k also, Cxnnahh 3,000. Just across the board, not enough damage from this Glad's team. And then so much survivability on this Ravens comp also. I mean, Wukong, very hard to deal with. We saw that attempted kill onto him, and he just walked away. He didn't take like any damage, and it was just so much tankiness on this Ravens team. Not enough damage from the Glads. I'm starting with this Baba. Either pick it or ban it.
I think that's got to be the easy call. You can't be letting this Baba Yaga get through now. I think 2 games in a row that the Gladiators have given this one up. And it still just looks like one of the best gods in the game at this point. I mean, I keep going back and highlighting just how little this god dies. Again, no matter which player is playing, and no matter if it's on a winning game or a losing game, it has been so difficult to just kill a Baba Yaga in general. And she's able to dish out so much consistent damage. I mean, looking immediately just at the KDA of the god itself this phase, 64 kills, 21 deaths, 117 assists, and that's in 20 games. This god is only dying on average once a game. And if you're Paul, you're not dying on that god like ever. So probably if the god is doing so well, win or loss, because it's not like it's a massive win rate for the god sitting at 60%, but skews it in your favor just a little bit more to have a god that strong.
I mean, you're saying that 60-20 KD, this is including losses. There's games where it's just a stomp, you're unable to do much. The Baba is still killing 3 times as much as he is dying. So that's, I think, we are in agreement. That is where we need to start with. Glads taking first pick again. They banned out a lot of mage solos, game 2. Sticking with it so far, banning away the Ryzen. The Ravens mixed up a little bit. They for sure do not want to play against this Athena, though. That is for sure.
I don't think anybody wants to really play against Athena. Playing with an Athena, that's great. Makes an easy initiation follow-up. The Gilded Gladiators, now they won't pick the Baba for themselves, which is maybe strange. Maybe just Jangaru not comfortable and wanting to play the god himself in that first pick spot. Maybe think something is more worthwhile for that first pick. So instead we'll see a ban along with the Raijin. Wouldn't be surprised if we also saw the Opwash kind of pack into here, or maybe the Hades, or maybe you ban one, leave the other up for yourself to try and take, force a ban on the other side. Will not be the case. Amaterasu banned by the Gladiators, and then a Ratatoskr from the Ravens. If I'm the Gladiators here, you spend so much time banning one of those 2 soul lane mages, maybe see one of those ones picked up here for themselves.
Yeah, a lot of power picks open right now. Yemoja, Chernobog. Opwash, we have not seen a ton of early prio on, but it's still a very, very strong god. Back to game 1, they went with this Yemoja first pick. They're sticking with it. No Baba will be picked by the Ravens here. It's been banned away. Opwash, they're left through. Chernobog left through. Hovered, I expect it to be locked in. It is locked in.
No surprise that Zapman, after a strong game number 1 on this pick, would want to go back to it after it was taken away from him by Snoopy just in the game previously. And an Opwash 4 could be Venenu, could be Haddix. Now that the Baba Yaga is off the table, it does open that potential flexibility of the pick once more. Though based off the performance that Haddix had in a game number 1, it would not surprise me if that pick goes back over to him. So now is the time for the answer back of the Gilded Gladiators. What do you go with in response to this team? If this Opwash is going solo, Hades doesn't feel great into him just because of the counter of the healing with the anti-heal that Opwash has, the stun from Fleeting Breath. But again, you could also bank that this Opwash might not be going to Haddix, so then you don't have to worry about that whole team fighting mechanic until the game gets a little bit later. But I mean, with how strong the mage solos have been, we haven't seen too many outside of the aforementioned Hades, the Raijin, and the Opwash have kind of just been the 3 dominating solo lane.
And this is where we saw those Guardians locked in when there's nothing else really available up. Yes, there's the Wukong, but we've seen that. It's not something that wins lane. It gets bullied. It gets poked. Maybe something like the variety Xingqian played it into the Opwash, and it looked pretty strong in the mid game. Late game didn't scale all too well. But not the Xingqian, not the Serb, not the Sobek. No Guardian at all for the Gladiators. They're going for that Sun Wukong and pairing with it a Soul. And I don't know if you've talked about it much on the desk, but I've tried to talk about it a lot, where this Soul just seems like a really average pick. Like, when you're locking in Soul, you're not trying to do anything other than win laning phase and play somewhat safe in mid to late.
I mean, a lot of what we've seen from teams when they do lock the Soul, I think specifically the Kings when they play it, is they will win out their lane, they'll take down first tier 1, 10, 12 minutes in the game, and then Yark leaves that lane. He goes to the opposite and says, hey, Variety, come get a little bit of free farm in my lane, let's go and chill over here, and we'll go start pushing down Soul lane. And then Yark rotates over to mid and says, okay, we're going to push down this lane. Really just feels like, not necessarily that Soul dictates the pace of the game, but that it does at least control the structure side of the game more than anything. Because that really is what Soul does best, probably maybe better than any other god besides a Kronos with Poly late game, is just be able to absolutely obliterate structures. So for the Soul, Yemoja should be winning out in that laning phase for the Gladiators, so has one avenue now where Kyrmi doesn't necessarily have to worry about duo, and instead might want to try and put some focus either towards mid or this solo lane.
And Kuzenbo opted into, we've not seen a Kuzenbo this phase. Some potential for solo. Opwash locked in, has potential for solo and mid. I'd assume Opwash solo, Kuzenbo support. Maybe a little weird picking it into Yemoja. Seems a little funky, but it could be okay.
That's not where I thought you were going to go when you kind of hesitated because you were saying it's roles and I saw you like hesitate. I'm like, are you about to like try and sell me on like Kuzenbo jungle or something like that?
No, but that's what Frog's trying to do.
I don't know. We could be seeing it go towards Scream. He's done some weird stuff.
He has.
Scream, much like SMITE, are very strange junglers in that they don't necessarily stick to the norm every single time, especially when you're up 2-0 in a set. You got a little bit more flexibility to kind of play things.
He's smiling a little bit. Scream was smiling a little bit.
It might be. I think depending on where these bans go, I mean, they're starting to ban junglers on the side of the Ravens. The Gladiators are banning some junglers as well. I don't know, man. We might be seeing a Kuzenbo jungle pop in now. I think if we can get a good reaction from Scream after maybe the next god gets locked in,
no way.
Geb going in, this one might just be. We may have just found one.
Okay, there still is the potential of Opwash mid and Kuzenbo solo, which makes a lot more sense.
It does.
It makes a lot more sense. But no Geb lock-in just yet. It was just hovered. Nuwa now getting hovered. And we've seen Venenu play a lot of Nuwa. That's kind of like his next almost... That might even be like his second or third most played god this phase. He went back to it a lot of times. Hovering it here, it is a very good divine applying god. It applies divine very well onto Yemoja, Wukong, Soul. 3 gods that are going to be at least somewhat reliant on healing. And I talked about all that, and now they go to hover the Ishtar. We've seen a lot of Ishtar also this phase.
Just having fun. This is what they love to do.
They do.
You get to these ones, they like to bounce around what their picks are going to be. They like to get you hyped up, say, oh yeah, I played this in a while. Or like we'd get to like World Time, it's like, oh, nobody's playing Anubis. What if I hover the Anubis? That'd be real cool. Get the crowd hyped up, and then inevitably they probably never lock that one anyways. But Now we do see with Ishtar locked in, that gives us a double physical hunter. So we could actually be seeing Chernobog go over towards the mid lane for Venenu this time. Could also be the Ishtar, but we've pretty much only seen Ishtar over in the duo lane.
I think you're right to say Chernobog's going to be going mid. This Opwash, this Kuzenbo, still a little up in the air, but Opwash leans even more towards into solo now with this double hunter lock-in. Daji locked in by the Glads. Morrigan locked in with the Glads. A little bit more fluidity with this Morrigan pick. A lot more options, in my opinion. You had the Chernobog last game. Didn't use it too many times. Now you have that Daji for that double banish ability to pull beads. And the Ravens' last pick here. I'm going to say they're looking for a jungler. It could be a few picks, though.
I think it's safe to say that they're looking for a jungler, but given that it's Scream, we could be looking at our support pick here. Still could be looking at the jungle pick. They're both.
He's trying to convince him.
They're both
He's
laughing.
trying to convince him.
He's sitting there. He is so desperate to convince them to let them run the Kuzenbo,
No
and
way.
they're going to do it unless this is a Geb jungle, which I think I like less than the Kuzenbo.
I like it less, too. Agreed.
One of these Guardians, very likely, and I'll keep that very likely going into the jungle.
I guess we should talk about the potential strength of a Kuzenbo jungle. Probably one of the highest clear Guardians there is. You have the triple bounce. The gank potential, a little reliant on Blink, so I'd expect a Blink first coming out. Not a ton of CC that is instant that you can't ult immune on the side of the Gladiators. Also, Kuzenbo has that strength late game where he can itemize into a few more power items or a defense item. And J-Mag, you got a little smile on your face. You want to tell us something?
It's not Kuzenbo jungle. It's Geb.
Oh, that's even...
It's Geb.
I would have preferred the Kuzenbo.
I think I would have too. Now, I think similar vein to the Kuzenbo, where maybe Kuzenbo's a bit very reliant on the blink, to get the blink to get range for the sumo slam. Geb's CC in his dash is that he has the giant knockback, but you have to make sure you hit the right angle, otherwise you might send them towards their tower line or off towards some weird wall. So probably equally reliant on the blink, but does have some really strong CC that comes along with it.
He's also got a strong matchup into the jungle. Daji versus Geb. He's going to have near one-shot potential.
Counterplaying.
Yeah, he's counterpicking. The Daji is going to be going blink 99% of the time. Beads at 12. But prior to that, Geb has near one-shot potential onto this Daji. He doesn't have to ult immune the Daji ult. He can just Geb shield himself. A little bit of a high-level pick here by Scream.
You think we see a poly from the Geb? You know, like the old style, like one-shot Geb build, you just go full damage and get like a poly 5th or 6th item, blink in, hit the knock-up, poly, cataclysm, get another poly shot after. You think we see that come from Scream this game?
Oh, that's tough. Because he's already opted into the Geb. He probably just has to send it and go full damage with poly, right?
I'd hope so.
I'm going to say we're probably seeing a hybrid build. Probably. We might see that full damage. We might see Poly, Blink just looking to one-shot. Especially because he's already picked the Geb. You might as well just send it at this point. Go the full damage. But realistically, I think hybrid build makes a little bit more sense.
Now, we already talked a little bit about kind of the matchup with the duo lane. The Yemoja Soul should have some very good push for the Gilded Gladiators in that duo. It should make it a little bit tougher for the Kuzenbo and whichever of these two hunters, whether it be the Ishtar over there most likely, should at least kind of keep things even or maybe in favor of the Gladiators. So for Kyrmi, avoid Scream, at least is what I'm gathering from this one, and try and go towards one of these lanes, get some pressure. The Gilded Gladiators, they really need to be able to find something here in game number 3. The Highland Ravens, they're kind of experimenting a little bit, kind of having a little bit of fun with their picks, as do many teams when they get up 2-0 against squads. So we'll see if the Gilded Gladiators can bounce back, find themselves a win, and move us into game number 4, or will this be a sweep for the Ravens? Let's jump in with Frog and Trelly for game 3.
Oh, Charlie, I'm excited, man. I'm excited because this composition, Scream, you see it right there off the bat, has the Geb jungle in pocket. It's Frog, it's Trelly, it's Doug taking you through the cast, and I'm excited. I don't know if you know this, Trelly, but I am a jungle main in my ranked games, and I'm a bit of a connoisseur of Geb jungle. So it's about time it gets picked here in the SPL.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that Scream is testing the best way to roll out through the speed buff for maximum clear. I don't think he's figured it out yet. He's tried 3 different lineups, and he's like, that's not quite right. He is trying to figure out how to clear the speed buff the best. Let's see what he figured out. Oh, the old 3 seconds prior. That's the best option, and there you go. That's what practice makes perfect, ladies and gentlemen. That is how Scream is going to get the best possible speed buff clear here. Even pops the Horn Shard. He wants to roll into red buff as well. I don't mind this view. I think we might have to stay on this guy for a while, see what this Geb jungle's gonna bring to the table.
Well, because the tech is interesting, right? I mean, you got to imagine that the mid-max that has to come through on the mechanics here for the Geb jungle, it is that much more punishable because it doesn't have the base damage, it doesn't have the easy clear that a lot of these other junglers have. So naturally, it is that much more punishable. If Scream is not on point, this will be an easy farm game for Kyrmi.
That is true, but you know, I've been an enjoyer of the full damage Geb in some of my, you know, casuals. Not really something I whip out in rank too often. And Geb's got that one-shot potential, man. You do have to get online to that point. As
Oh
you
my
can
God!
see, that's what I've been talking about. Does Ven have the AoE auto attacks? He can't reach it now. Kyrmi didn't have the damage to finish there either. I think the real tragedy here is the fact that Kyrmi picked the Daji, thinking that, you know, Kuzenbo was going to be the support or something along those lines. Kyrmi blinks to the back and he doesn't have enough damage. What a beautiful jolt from Venenu to peel for Scream. He definitely dies there if that jolt doesn't connect. Man, Scream and Ven going back and forth, peeling for each other.
Yeah, and that maybe brings us to the Ishtar mid. For that, though, Zapman trying to find the first blood onto Snoopy. He's used it to separate, but will not have enough damage to take down the first blood there. The Ishtar mid, I thought it would be Chernobog. That's where we've seen this pick before. You get more rotation potential if you put the global over there in mid, but we see the Ishtar, and thus far Ven's looking good on it.
Yeah, I mean, Zap likes to play this Chernobog as an assassin. If it's locked in, Ven can't get his hands on it, man. He won't allow for it. He's like, you know what? I'm going to be ulting to the back line pretty consistently, and I can't do that on Ishtar, all right? I want to be able to fly across the map, so that's the reason that Ven is piling the Ishtar here. Zap probably just wouldn't let him. He's like, you know what, man? I want to be ulting it, and that is going to be the case. Point being, though, I said Kyrmi got baited a little bit, and it's because the Geb interaction with Paolo is just so difficult. Ven getting body blocked here does not have any more damage. Even the stun and the auto attack is not going to be enough. Where's Scream, though? He's close by. Kyrmi doesn't have a blink. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any kill potential. You just get that cleanse, man. The Paolo gets so little value when Geb is around because of that stone shield. Not going to be the biggest deal when it's an actual team fight, but when it's a 1v1 or even a 2v2, you don't need to worry about your beats. You get that free cleanse.
Is that now what we're selling to the masses? Everybody in Twitch chat, if you see a Daji on the enemy team, you should be insta-locking this Geb jungle. Is that what
No, I see Geb, not Geb jungle. You
Okay.
you could just play him in general, you know what I mean? Like, Kyrmi's like, all right, Kuzenbo's getting grabbed. I don't have to worry about any cleanses. Daji looking good. And even then, even if Geb was a possibility, it's not like anyone's been playing Geb support either. You know, he's not in the meta at the moment because he doesn't get pressure in duo lane. And that's a big deal. You know, what does Yemoja and Kuzenbo do? They insta-clear 3 buffs and make sure that you can show up to lane on time. Geb does not really have that ability. Has to play a lot more passive in this early game, which is why not the most attractive pick at the moment. I want to see these ganks, though. You know, I want to see the Blink Cataclysm and do a couple auto attacks, the knock-up, roll-out combo. It can one-shot someone if you get enough DPS online, and I think Scream might be trying to find it here.
Yeah, looking for something. Blinking from Hurriwind, and the ultimate comes through, but trapped in the waves, and the combo is too good. The rotation from Venenu helps out, but Scream, he might be traded back on him, and Ven finds a double kill. So both dual laners fall. The Highland Ravens take a 2-for-1, but it might be more if they could find Ven, and they do in the jungle, a 2-for-2 to win the day.
Yeah, it seemed like Ven could have ran, but he wanted to turn around to see if he could find the 1v1 versus Jangaru, but of course, Kyrmi's not going to let that slide. Was nearby, had the Trickster Spirit. Easy kill confirmation. Saw the strength. I guess the lack thereof with how much damage Cataclysm's doing early on. It's alright. You want to build just a little bit more. And Scream is maxing the rollout here. Not too worried about the knockup. Wants to use the majority of his damage on that rollout on his escape. But it's also a bit of the initiation. Whenever that blink's down, you're going to need that blink to try and get forward here. I'm curious about how much damage Scream decides to build. You know, for what it's worth, you can go sort of hybrid and still one-shot squishies. But does he want even more DPS? Is he going to want the Polynomicon, which is just, flows so well with Geb's kit? I'd prefer full damage, but we'll have to see what Scream wants to go.
Yeah, I'm with Inbound on the desk, man. If you pick this Geb, you might as well go all in. You might as well be picking for the Blink, Poly Auto, Knockup, just all of the damage all at once. And, frankly, if he gets there, he'll be trading 1-for-1 pretty much every single fight. If you get onto any of these carries, the damage that you can do has a lot of potential, and he's actually making the pressure. He's got the blue buff invade along with Haddix on the Opwash. And let me say, I was worried just at the beginning of the draft because Haddix first picked this Opwash. That was something I think he looked fantastic on in game number 1. He's been a real difference maker this set.
Yeah, the Outwash is scary, man. You get a little bit of damage online. It can be a threat. Haddix has been building a little bit differently than everyone else. Instead of that Pythax, has been going into the breastplate. And I tend to agree. I'm not the biggest fan of Pythax. I understand it's just a great stat stick early on. But if you're worried about a double physical jungle, you just want more mana, more cooldowns, and you know you're going to build into damage later. Not a bad look to just start with the breastplate. You just do lose a little bit of that extra aura for your team, and the fact that Pythax just gives so many other stats. I can see why it's so highly valued, but I think I might like this start just a bit better, especially if you're worried about losing your beads. A Daji could come over and try and gank you, and that could be a problem. Scream breaks the hearts of thousands watching, goes into a defense item, second on this Geb.
Tier 1 breastplate,
Disgusting.
Man. Oh my. It's tragedy on all fronts for Scream, but, that at the end of the day, if we're actually thinking about what Geb's going to be doing in these team fights, you have to imagine, hold that thought, blink in and gets the beads out of Jangaru, and the punish will not come through. Just a blink for beads trades thus far, but the rest of the team joins him in the fight, and Jangaru has to get off the Palau faster than he maybe expected. Kyrmi could be trapped here in the mid lane, but finds the tier 1 tower. And you burn the global ultimate as well. Everybody tries to join the punish there, but ultimately nobody falls, but those relics on the end get burned from Zapman.
Yeah, Zap had the beads. Everyone on the Highland Ravens essentially ulted in unison. Even Haddix over in solo had to empty the crypts there. Looks like he just went for 1 point into the rollout and then started maxing the knockup. Gotta keep us guessing, Probably realized I don't like rolling out every time I want to aggress, every time I want to do damage. Sure, it's good for farming, but if I want to be able to do damage as a jungler, I need a little bit more damage into that knockup, so a smart call there. After breastplate, then he goes full damage, surely. That seems a lot more like Scream's MO. Kyrmi's nearby, doesn't have the Powwow, but wants to dive Zapman. Even if he does, he's going to dash right into the wall. Doesn't seem like killing is going to be too easy. But with the Rivers of Fugue, Zap already came out of the wall?
Trapped in between the waves, and Kyrmi finds the well-timed dash. Hurriwind's down low as well. Snoopy looking to find something, but Snoopy has no beads. He has to be careful. Kyrmi comes in to find the double kill, and the min-max is there for the Gilded Gladiators, but they have to be careful about the punish. This rotation from Ven grabs Snoopy. Kyrmi able to join up with the rest of his squad. So will be a 2-for-1 and a buff invade for the Glads.
Yeah, unfortunately, Zapman, I'm amazed that he went in and out of the wall so quickly. He could have stalled just a bit longer to wait for his team, but didn't fear the kill, or more specifically, didn't know Kyrmi was right behind him. That's likely the reason that he decided to just come in, come out, get stunned, and give the easiest kill ever to Kyrmi. 3-0 on the Daji. So far has been able to last it every kill except for one that went over to Jangaru. And that's going to help out a ton. I mean, this Daji is still the driving force of this Gilded Gladiator roster. I mean, if Kyrmi is having a good game, the rest of the team can benefit from it. Duo lane. When did Hurriwind get so far behind? I guess just giving some free farm over to Zapman, or at least trying to. Put him 2 levels down at this point. This Kuzenbo needs to get that Gauntlet of Thieves stacked up before he can really feel tanky.
Look at those spikes in the gold difference, rather. I mean, other than those, though, it's been a pretty even game thus far. Hurriwind grabs awesome Jake, and he's getting bounced around, man. He didn't touch the ground for like 2 seconds. He's just hanging out in the air, but he does get pushed back under the tier 1 tower, rather, and makes it out alive. Scream has certainly been active. He's been attempting on these ganks, but I mean, I think the lack of base damage is just punishing a little bit when they try to go for these tanks.
Yeah, Scream's scaling though. You know, he's trying to get online. A little bit more cooldown would help out as well, because if you're not dying from the Blink Ult 2-1 combo, he doesn't have much else in the tank. That's pretty much all he will provide in a fight. So once you get a little bit more CDR, tends to go better. Snoopy doesn't have Supernova, so Zap not too worried about the burst, but looks like he doesn't want to trade autos. A little bit afraid of how much damage this soul can provide. I don't see any wards from Zapman either. Like, there's one tall up, but Jangaru ends up dying. Wow, chased so far into the enemy jungle. That means the Gilded Gladiators can attempt to pull a Gold Fear. Yeah, Zap back. He doesn't know about this yet.
They're going to hop on it. Looks like Hurriwind headed over towards that objective, and they're frankly not doing it very fast, but either way, won't be in time. The Gilded Gladiators, they grab the Gold Fury after losing their mid laner. That'll open it up for the Ravens to push down this tier 1 tower, and I wonder if they'll continue on the chase. Kyrmi forced into that second ability, knock-up immunity prevents the chase, but they'll get what they can. The Ravens find Jangaru, I guess, in his own jungle where he thought he might be safe, but they take down the tier 1 tower, and now he has even less safety in that mid lane.
Certainly does. We haven't had a chance to talk about these solo laners because they haven't done anything, Frog, but this will be the 3rd time in a row, and I'm going to bring it up because it is even more impactful now. Haddix has made a rotation over to the beacon without teleport, and Cxnnahh with upgraded teleport has not. That's happened twice now. This is game number 3. If Haddix shows up to this beacon fight, and the Gilded Gladiators try to fight it, and Cxnnahh doesn't, I'm going to have some big question marks. Sometimes Cxnnahh understands his team is just losing. That's not the case here. Sure, they're down a little bit in gold, but it's 4-4. The Gilded Gladiators are still able to scrap. I really would like to see, whether booking it on foot or teleporting over, a rotation, especially if Haddix makes it. But since Cxnnahh knows Haddix is at blue buff, is not forced into that rotation, at least not yet.
Kyrmi, he's over on that right side of the map as well, stealing away some farm. And it seems like even if Haddix does not rotate, Cxnnahh wants to make sure that he's here for this one, and he is tucking it over on foot just to try and be here for the beacon, despite the fact that nobody's really fighting. Just wanted to be here for moral support, and certainly was able to support his team there, especially since Haddix is now rotated over, and the fight begins. Trapped in the waves is Hurriwind into the watery grave, but he may just get taken down regardless. Jangaru finds the last hit, and the chase is on to Kyrmi as well. It will be a 1-for-1 if they can find it, and Zapman gets onto Kyrmi. Support for jungle thus far, but Jangaru is transformed and pulls in Scream. Has to find the disengage as Haddix chasing down this middle lane. No tier 1 tower for safety. A 1-for-1 thus far. The Highland Ravens maybe get the better of that trade.
Yeah, I mean, the Gilded Gladiators grab the beacon, but the Highland Ravens are able to kill Kyrmi and get the shutdown, which is certainly a big deal. Zapman, it's credit for that one. And there was a good knock up there for Scream over the wall. Certainly behind XP-wise, would love to get a little bit more survivability. Still not ticked over to level 12. I mean, this is the benefit of being able to farm quickly. I think Scream has been active, 5 assists so far of 5 kills, but just can't farm the map as fast as Kyrmi can. Can't clear these camps as fast either. That's where that XP differential is going to come from, as well as some of these kills. Like, Kyrmi has been pretty on point with just stealing away the back camps. He's been in Scream's jungle the majority of this game because he's not fearful there. Who is going to try and fight him in the enemy jungle? It's not like Scream takes that 1v1. Even if he does commit, he just gets Paolo out. Scream's now 3 levels behind.
Yeah, I mean, and we knew this going in. We were like, you know, this might struggle with the farm because after all, it is a Gev. But Haddix, he's the one under pressure right now, this right-hand side. And it's a 3 versus 3 as the rotation power comes through. But a great Paolo pulls 2, and Hurriwind has the peel. Haddix is still at 50%. He's just healing it up. And Kyrmi is the one that gets punished. He'll fall for the 2nd time this game. And the rotation is there for the Highland Ravens. The Riptide and the waves go up. Cxnnahh gets saved maybe from the follow-up, and then he'll fall! The Supernova's good, and Snoopy finds the enemy mid laner. Riptide out, now they're looking for the escape. I don't know that they'll find it though. Snoopy gets taken down in trade, and Haddix is on.
He's still healing!
He's still healing, dude! He's at 50% HP the whole fight, and Screammmmm is on the board with the Geb. A huge fight for the Ravens.
Zapman trying to steal away the red buff, but Kana is here. Looks like it will be stolen away by Zapman and the Stone Shield. Keeps him just fine. The Pyromancer's here, Frog, and that is what the Ravens like to go for. Kyrmi's already back, though, and wants to try and defend this one. Scream's very low. This is a risky call. The Pyro's sure free, but can they find a pick after? Kyrmi's still deciding if he wants to go in. Once he sees the full health Haddix, he decides against it. Sweeping declaration, anti-heal. Probably going to be necessary if you want to try and burn through Haddix's HP. Just breastplate and Pythag so far, but he's probably going to get like a Genji's guard or more CDR later. It's going to be so annoying. This man ults just for totems.
Yeah, wow, kinda. he's certainly fallen down a little bit. Haddix putting down the damage, and I'm just amazed at how long he lived that fight. Primal Fury started up by the Gladiators. They're looking for the objective, and Zapman, he's getting pressured out as well. The Gladiators find the third neutral objective of this game, and they get the beads off of Zapman. I mean, despite the fact that they're at a gold deficit, they have the pressure on map right now.
They certainly do, but Scream somehow caught up 3 levels in that meantime. I was talking about how Geb just can't farm, and Scream said, oh yeah, give me 2 minutes and I'll be even with Kyrmi at this point. Now, remember, Ben got shut down. That was a bit ago. Now 4-2. He was carrying a big portion of the gold that the Highland Ravens have. Goes in for the full fail nut, so does get some crit chance online. But Ben has been one of the massive damage dealers. Of course, Haddix, you know, he's just doing solo lane damage. That is going to be the top of the charts for a while. But Ben is still one of the massive damage dealers in these fights, so having him fall down, not going to be the best option. I think Hurriwind and Scream are going to have to coordinate their assault just a little bit better. These double Guardians need to be lining up their CC on key targets. At the moment, no one that has beads have them down, but Awesome Jake's always a decent option. He doesn't have that CC immunity, just has Shell and a Frenzy. And of course, Kana, that Somersault Cloud is going to get you out of most trouble. I don't see him dying anytime soon unless he vastly overcommits to a fight.
Is Hurriwind just chasing Awesome Jake? He's just like, I want to be right next to you, man. I'm just going to follow you through the jungle constantly.
Are they going for fire? They are.
Yeah, wow. This is early, but I mean the last 2 games not
But it's
super
because of
foreign.
Beacon. They don't know.
Yeah, they have. Well, okay, Jake may have figured it out because he is riptiding over there at the speed. He's trying to find the way and down to half HP, but he's the only one there until Kana makes his way. Ultimate dropped there, and the corpses, they'll try to secure it. And the Ravens do indeed find the Fire Giant, looking for the fight after the fact, but Scream will be the first to fall. Double powwow, trying to find some members to pull in, but they will only find 2, and Zapman's fighting alone on the other side of the fight. He's taking the 1v1, he's almost winning it, but with a 3 versus 1, it's gotta be the Gladiators, and they find 3 of the Ravens in punishment for taking the Fire Giant. It's just the tanks alive to escape for the Ravens.
Yep, Haddix does have beads in Aegis, so shouldn't be in too much trouble here. Hurriwind blinks out. This is something that I've seen the Ravens do a lot. When they get a Runic Bomb, they just go for these early Fire Giants in 50-50, and they always confirm. It's always that Runic Bomb that has the confirmation. Last time it was Zap, this time it was Hurriwind. Unfortunately, last time they won the game in 20-ish minutes. This time around, they lose Fire Giant on 3. Trying to kill Awesome Jake would need a Nene for the slow. Actually, no. You got the Corpse Explosion, and Haddix has plenty of cooldown, but one more Riptide gets Awesome Jake out. Who's going to hit first? It looks like it's Haddix.
Oh my goodness, they just have so endless cooldowns from the Ravens, and they will find Jake in the end, but that means they're not here.
Oh, Scream's here
to defend this, and Scream is
Jangaru!
here. Oh my goodness, Jake Jangaru gets deleted before the tower can fall, and a successful tier 2 defense. Meanwhile, the tank still running it down mid. Hurriwind is diving a Phoenix before the tier 2 is even taken down. And here comes Zapman. Snoopy, he has to walk back into 3 and will not live to see another day. Scream!
That's it!
Hits 2,500 kills in his career with that second one on Geb. And none other than Geb. It had to be Geb.
That's fantastic that we just see him roll through Snoopy on Geb for the 2,500th kill in his career. Not bad. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it on Geb. Now, take a look at the swing. The Highland Ravens get Fire Giant, lose it on 3, and Haddix and Hurriwind say, I'll do it myself. They just push up mid lane while the rest of the team defends. The tanks end up being the carries in that regard. Hurriwind gets the kill. I was going to say Haddix doesn't even have any kills, so Hurriwind was the one who stole that last hit. But now, Gold Fury's up. I see a lot more Gilded Gladiators than I do Ravens so far in Scream. Doesn't seem like anyone's even near him. They don't want to fight Scream. They're too afraid of this Geb. They're backing up.
I don't know that they know he's here on the left-hand side. He hasn't engaged if he wants to find it, but he'll just be making space, and the Ravens are on the Gold Fury. Nobody can step up to it once the ultimate gets dropped. And it will be the first neutral objective for the Ravens this time around, outside of the Fire Giant, of course, that they grabbed a little bit earlier. But this time, they keep all 5 alive while doing it.
They do. I wonder if they're going to even try and push up here. 50 seconds left on Fire Giant. Zapman's over on left. Highland Ravens not really grouped up. Yeah, with Hurriwind backing up, that pretty much cements it for me. That's going to be the end of the push for now. They do have time to group up and try and get another Fire Giant. That is certainly a possibility here. The Highland Ravens want to get that ward coverage down. But there are still some impactful power spikes that the Gilded Gladiators need to try and grab. I mean, Zapman has an upgraded starter, full build. Snoopy has 3 items to his name. You know, he needs the extra rings. He needs that extra damage. He cannot match the pressure of a Chernobog, which, to be fair, not really anyone can. There's a reason he's one of the top ADCs, actually the top hunter in the meta at the moment, because of that ability to just fly across the map and farm for free. But Zapman's still over on left. The Ravens have the ability to try and group up near fire the second it starts, but I wonder if Zap's just going to split push and try and get another one of those free Phoenixes that the Gilded Gladiators sometimes hand out.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They do sometimes hand out those free Phoenixes, and Zapman, he's taken advantage of it before, but he's got to be careful. On this left-hand side, blink in from Kyrmi. The dash in continues on the damage, has the powwow, but a good ultimate, and Scream gets his beads forced and ultimate forced as well. Pulled back in, and the Gladiators combine. All the ultimates used, they only get one, and they lose their jungler in the process. They might lose much, much more. Venenu in and looking for Jangaru. He finds Zapman as an answer back, and oh my goodness, the damage is not there until Haddix shows up, and the Gladiators are fighting back. A 2 for 3, and finally Hurriwind joins the fight, but he's so late, and it's the 2 tanks once again trying to clean things up. They get one. They might get Snoopy as well. How does Haddix do these things? It's just the tanks from the Ravens who come in and save the fight.
I mean, you got to think about how much damage was used onto the carries, right? Zapman gets gone on by the first Daji, Kyrmi. He goes through, ends up having to get scared, dives under his tower, gets the ultimate. Then guess what? There's still another Daji. Here comes Jangaru. Zap is able to live through that as well. But then Jangaru goes invis, goes underneath, gets the stun, gets the Dark Omen, pulls the beats and the Aegis from this Chernobog, and is able to find that kill. When you use that much just to try and get Zapman, what do you have for Haddix? I mean, like I said, he's one of the tankier members on the map with this build. Still has incredible damage with the Pythags, with the... He didn't even go Blood-Soaked Shroud. He went Sacrificial Shroud. He's doing even more damage now with the upgraded starter item. I mean, Haddix is just trying to be the carry at this point, and 3-0-5 seems like it's working.
Fire Giant back up on the map, and no contestation, it looks like, from the Gladiators.
No relics for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dangerous pull, potentially, but not if nobody steps up. It's a free Fire Giant. It looks like they're looking for the fight. Let's go to a listen with the Ravens.
Around me.
Wukong's gonna be on me. Oh, Morrigan in the back. Zap and I are dead here.
I have to run, guys. What a flank. Oh,
Mori all done. Mori has does
I have
heal.
no relics, so might
You
be
guys
good.
come to me, I have shield.
Just leave him.
I'm out. And I'm out of there. She actually can.
They take the fire giant, but man, they lose the fight after the fact. 3 go down once again after taking the objective, and the Gladiators, they're in a position to push up mid.
It was just a terrible pull. Look at the relics. They still don't have anything up. I don't know why the Highland Ravens felt like they could win a fight there. I guess just overconfidence. Yeah, the Gilded Gladiators walk in, get the freest pulls of their life with Daji, and now they get a tier 2 tower and a Phoenix. They're not even positioning like they're leaving. It looks like they want to step forward.
This is dangerous. 4 strong, 5 strong versus 2 here. Scream with a 3-man ultimate though, and he slows it down beautifully. The waves come up, and the damage is on to the Titan, but Zapman spawns, and the defense is there for the Ravens. They find 4, and they find 5, a full deicide. Beautiful defense for the Ravens, and now they'll look to push it down mid.
Frog, I tried to tell you that the pull on Fire Giant wasn't good. I stand by that, but the end call? There's 2 tier 2s up. The respawn, I think Ven was at like an 8-second timer the second they start hitting Titan. Did they really think they could burn through the Titan that quickly? Now, the Highland Ravens have a chance to go in for the end call. 20 seconds without Kana. Everyone is going to be spawning at the same time. How quickly you do this, Phoenix tells you if you can go in for the end call, and they've got a lot more time than the Glads had.
They've got a bomb, they've got time, and they've got 10 seconds on the nearest respawn. And I don't think the Gladiators are going to be able to put up a fight. A failed end call for the Gladiators, and the Ravens, they run it right back down. A 3-0 sweep for the Ravens.
What kind of game did we just witness, man? The Geb jungle, Scream gets his 2,500th kill, a Fire Giant play with 0 relics, not even like teleport. There was not a single relic available for the Ravens. They pull it, they confirm it, and then get completely wiped just about. Scream barely makes it out. They have a little bit of defense left, but the Gladiators say, you know what? We don't care about a free tier 2. We don't care about a free Phoenix. We want to go in for the end call. We want to end this game. And they did not have the damage or the time to kill that Titan. And the Ravens say, thanks, guys. We do have the damage, and we do have the time.
I gotta tell you, there are not a lot of junglers I would have rather had on that base defense, though.
He did have
Scream
massive
blinks
cataclysm.
in and hit a 3-man ult. They have no DR on them. They're stunned for the full, 2 seconds, where they just can't hit the Titan. And that's 2 more seconds for Venenu, for Zapman to spawn up. A beautiful defense from the Highland Ravens. They get everybody back alive. They clean it up, defend their own Titan, and run it back down and take the Titan of the Glads. A 3-0 sweep for the Ravens. That'll do it for me and Trelly on the cast. We're back to JMac and Inbound on the desk.
A little bit of silliness in the Ravens picks, but game 3, it works out for them. Almost doesn't. Nearly cost them around that Fire Giant fight. Haddix goes down, leaves only the 2 tanks. I should say the 2 Guardians left alive, but the good news for the Highland Ravens is one of those Guardians is Scream on the damage Geb. Able to hold out on defense at the very end, run it back, and win out in game number 3. Now take the set for themselves, and as mentioned there by Frog, 2,500 kills now for Scream's competitive history, so a big milestone for him, and a big win for the Highland Ravens for themselves, finding a victory here in game 3, Bobby.
Yeah, and highlighting Jangaru, I think he played fantastic this entire set. I think he looks really good on the Morrigan. He had really good transforms this game, played really well around that Daji transformation. And overall, there are things for the Glads to take from this set. There is some things that you have to improve on also from this set. But I think Jangaru has been a very solid player through the ups and downs of his Glad's tenure already.
Yeah, 100%. Jangaru's been a fantastic addition for the team. Now it's just figuring out what this team wants to do to kind of help Jangaru and kind of continue to push forward for this team. I think that this Morrigan is a really strong pick, especially given some of the targets that he had to transform. We saw the dodges multiple times. This one worked great for them, but unfortunately, plays like this and moments like this one are why we see Haddix going back to this wash. I believe a triple kill, nearly a quad during this entire push, and it was just him and Hurry at this point, but to their credit, a lot of the damage and ultimates used in this team fight before up against the actual damage dealers of the Highland Ravens. Haddix and Hurry were able to turn this one around and really show the strength of the Wash in this matchup in the solo lane once more.
And not a lot of anti-heal that the Gladiators also had. there was so much healings that Haddix was getting through in a lot of those fights, and it was really hard for him to take him down. But looking at a lot of the stats, you know, Venenu started out really hot, and I thought his damage was going to be a little bit higher. Only 13k. Actually got out-damaged by everybody else on his team. Still, overall, a good set by him. 8-5-4 on this game. And looking at this Opwash, again, leading the game in damage. 30,000, 3-1-5. I expect Opwash to not be contested in every set, but most sets, I would think Opwash is going to be a pick or ban at the top part of P's and B's.
Strength of the Puch now shown evident in a few sets just this weekend alone between mid lane for players like Paul, solo lane from Baskin before, and now Haddix really putting on a good show with this new style of kind of a dialed-in made solo build. Still did the breastplate, your physical defense, your magic defense. The Pythag seems to be the core 3 of those items for your mages, and then Typhon's Fang or maybe Divine Ruin, something like that, as a final damage item in that kind of slot there. So kind of seems that we've honed in on a style of build for the solo lane. It's worked out really well for the mages that have been able to play that direction. And for the Highland Ravens now, 2 games this set where Haddix has looked really good on the Opwash pick. But who cares about the Opwash? We had a big milestone. We mentioned it during the cast, mentioned it during the death. 2,500 career kills for Scream, and he gets it on the Geb jungle. And he's standing by with Frog for our post-game interview.
That's right. We do have Scream standing by for the interview. First of all, obviously, congratulations on the sweep. And congratulations on 2,500 kills throughout your career in the SPL. That is not a feat that many people have met throughout their career. In fact, you are, if you look at the leaderboards up there, you are number 9 in total kills. You're chasing vote. So you have about 100 kills to get there. You think you'll make it this season?
100 kills by the end of the season? Yeah, I think I could catch him. Yeah.
Think you get vote. Maybe you'll go up further in the leaderboards throughout the season. I got to ask about that set. I think everybody's wondering about the Geb jungle because that was sort of a kind of a surprise at the end. I think we were talking about it. We thought it might have been the Kuzenbo before the Geb was locked in. I mean, what's going through your head with that pick?
Yeah, I mean, Kuzenbo was the idea before the game, but Hurry saw a great Kuzenbo angle from support, and I was like, Geb's good into double dodgy, but lock it in and let me work.
Lock it in and let me work. And none other, I mean, when you were going into this set, when you were getting ready for today, did you think you would grab your 2,500 kill on Geb jungle? Was that the plan from the beginning?
No, but I thought it was kind of funny mid-game. I was like, did I really just get my 2,500 kill on Geb of all things? It's like, what am I doing? But like, it's pretty cool, so.
Definitely cool indeed. Well, once again, congrats on the victory here. Thank you so much, Scream. We'll throw it back to the desk.
Yeah, congrats one more time to the Ravens and to Scream for their big accomplishments today. The 3-0 for the Ravens, 2,500 now. I think 2,501 technically for Scream. 3 of those. He walked in today, he needed 5 kills. He got 1 in game 1, 2 in game 2, and then 3 in game 3. It just keeps going up and up beyond there. We can take a look, though, at the schedule and at the standings. Let's see what you still have in store for the rest of today. 3-0 for the Ravens ends out our first set. And now we move into the Atlantis Leviathans and Eldritch Hounds as our final set of week number 5 here in the SPL. And then after that, there's only 2 more weeks of matchups to go for the regular phase for the Road to Worlds. And then after that, we hit into playoff time. We start getting to the qualifiers for the SCC SOC teams. And then we get into the last chance qualifiers for Worlds a little bit later on after that. And then Worlds. I mean, it's right around the corner. We're 2 months away, essentially, from the World Championships once this phase is completing out. We're so close. In fact, I just got told it's 82 days until the SMITE World Championships kicks off. And, man, we're already starting to see some very strong contenders for top teams right now. Six Fairman still leading. There's a win by the Highland Ravens, and I'll put this out there as the information, just statistically speaking. Gilded Gladiators have no chance now to be able to jump up anywhere in their standing, so are locked into 4th in their division at the time. Can still win some more games. Looks at least try and get some improvements for the remainder of the phase, but as far as moving up in standings, it's a lockout now for the Gladiators.
And then you take a look at the opposite side of the divisions. The Hounds have an opportunity to move up. They're down 2 wins, so now this is an important set for them. Need to take it, continue climbing up, and place better in the division.
Yeah, I think a big win for the Eldritch Hounds would be great for them today, but they've got to go through a tough opponent in the Leviathans, and all of that's coming up right after this break.